Welcome to Reels on the Rocks, the show where your hosts Whiskey and Sweet Tea discuss film from the unpretentious perspective. Tonight we close out the season with our 2024 film countdown. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, drink responsibly, and as always, please be advised that spoilers may be ahead.
Please send help. It's the Whiskey and Sweet Tea Reels on the Rocks 2024 drinking game. Welcome back.
The one where we get so toasted.
We probably will. We'll see. So we're not going to beat around the bush too much because these always run really long. But for anyone who's new to the show or this is the first episode like this you've heard, this is our way of reviewing new movies. We do it all in one episode, and we turn it into a drinking game which you can follow along with at home. Just please drink responsibly. If you watch a lot of movies, cut yourself off at a certain point because you might end up getting pretty wrecked. The rules are simple. All you got to do is if you have seen the movie that we are talking about, you go ahead and take a shot or a sip or whatever. And if you're too young to drink, don't do that. One rule I added just because T is always dragging his feet seeing new movies is that we had a race to see who would get to 20 movies first, and I won on July 27th, getting to my 20th movie. T has to take a penalty drink.
Okay, hang on. So let me announce what we'll be drinking. So on my end, I am, I'm a huge fan of the city of Savannah, and every time I go, I get a bottle of whiskey that's made there. So this episode, we have Ghost Coast peach-flavored whiskey, produced and bottled in Savannah, and it's made with real peaches. So we pour one of those out.
That sounds delicious, and also I'm a sucker for clever names, so who knows? One of these days I might take a trip to Savannah with you. We both have a friend who lives there.
I want to do a haunted episode either from there or from the haunted hotel downtown.
I'd be down. And the friend in question, he listens to the show. I think he does, said,
yeah.
Right? Nice. Well, hey Andy, if you're listening,
we just doxed
if you're drinking along. All right, so while you're taking your penalty shot, so the last 2 years I've done peppermint schnapps. This year I'm doing what T did for at least one or both of the last couple of years, which was mead. So higher, potency than wine, but not the same as a full-on liquor because I don't want to be too wrecked. And I'm doing, which is funny, I'd actually had this before and I didn't realize it was fairly local to the area, but Chaucer's Mead. So it's by Bargetto Winery, and it's their mead brand. And I got the spiced mead, but it came with packets that I have to soak it in. So
you were no.
I'm not going to bother with that because I'm lazy. So I'm just doing the straight mead. All right, T, have you taken your medicine?
Yes, I've taken my medicine. It is delicious. All right. It burns, but in the best way.
Right. Okay, last bit before we get into the proper thing. I always have what I call quote-unquote hangovers from last year, and I'm just going to roll those out real quick.
Okay.
Not even a part of the drinking game.
Go on.
So Poor Things, 3.5. If you guys listened to our Oscar episode this year, it was one of my favorite movies of 2023. Excellent. I think it's Yorgos Lanthimos' best movie.
And it also reveals that whiskey's a perv, but go on.
We all knew that. No, so... So Wonka is the other one. 3 out of 4, really good. Mm-hmm. It's the director of Paddington, so he's very good with that kind of film, family friendly. The music was good. I feel like detractors kind of expected it to be which it is. It is a prequel, but it's kind of its own thing. This is I could almost see it as a Broadway production or something.
Right.
I wouldn't really put it in the same vein as the original Willy Wonka movies. It's its own thing. It's a musical. And it's good. Like, Timothée Chalamet was like a good Wonka. Frankly, I wish Gene Wilder were alive to see that performance, because he probably would have liked it a bit better than Johnny Depp's. Okay. By the way, T, how many movies were you able to see?
Okay, so according,
because I'm wondering, because if I'm more than you, I'm gonna go first, just to. But how many have you seen?
Okay, so obviously you're gonna be more. I have 21.
Okay, not that much. So I'm at 30. So I will start. And I don't think you've seen. I don't think you've seen this.
But I know. But I was gonna do my draw bag. Remember?
Oh, fine. Okay, we'll let you start. Either way,
okay.
I'm gonna have seen more than you.
I'm sorry. I'm also a little sick, a little under the weather this episode, so I do apologize. Anyway, so I changed it up this year. We normally go over a list. So for me, what I did is I assembled all of my picks into a grab bag, into like these plastic egg things. You can hear that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm going to draw from it. Kind of keep it a little random, because otherwise we end up going in chronological order. Okay. So first up, all right, we have. Okay, first up is the best Christmas pageant ever. Did you see this one?
No, I did not. Is this a Lifetime movie?
This is not. This was a theater movie. It kind of flew under the radar. It was actually really good. It actually surprisingly has a very good Rotten Tomatoes score of 92%.
Wow.
This is based on this is actually adapted from a book I read. I saw this because I had a personal connection. I read the book back when I was in, like, I think 2nd grade. You know, it's basically this book about this town. They put on this pageant, and then there's these like kids who live in the town who they have a lot of family problems and stuff, and they're kind of rowdy and they mess stuff up, and then, you know, they kind of all come together and they make this a really good Christmas pageant. It's a very heartwarming movie. I would definitely recommend it. I gave it 3 out of 4 pitchers of sweet tea.
Good stuff.
I knew you were gonna laugh at that title though.
You know, after you said all that, I was kind of thinking, well, wait a second, maybe I did see a trailer for this, so I don't know. Probably not, honestly. But anyway, going into and I'm just gonna do my usual chronological order.
Yeah.
If T ends up pulling one out that's later in my list, I'll just cross it off and, you know, we'll move on. But so the first movie I saw for 2024 was actually a Netflix animated movie produced by DreamWorks, written by one of my favorite screenwriters, Charlie Kaufman, and it's Orion in the Dark. I take it you have not seen this one.
I didn't even hear of this one, so go on.
Okay, it's really good. I'm not going to say it's like a masterpiece. We've got some very, very, very good animated films later in the year, but it's typical Charlie Kaufman being, you know, deeper than he needs to be for a kid's movie. Basically, it's about a kid who's afraid of the dark, among many, many other things, and it is based on like a children's book. This is the one episode of the year we don't spoil anything, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but what I do think is kind of neat about it is it sort of unravels as the movie's going, and it becomes about something else, and it kind of becomes about how we use stories to pass on knowledge or wisdom, or kind of, you know, I can't explain it too much more than that without spoiling, but it just turns into a completely different movie, and it's very, very, like, heartwarming. The whole, like, learning to conquer your fears angle is there, but it also becomes like a multi-generational story, and it's really good. Not the best thing in the year, but 2.5 stars, really good for like a Netflix movie. All right, T, your turn.
Okay. Up next.
And I realized I didn't explain this. I feel like most of you who listen to us regularly already know, but for any of the newcomers, these scores are out of 4. So if 2.5 sounds really low, it's 2.5 out of 4.
Which
same
essentially
with
means
T's
okay.
last. Exactly, like, you know, adjust it. It's kind of an ongoing joke on the podcast. We're making fun of Siskel and Ebert because they famously did 4 stars, which, who does that? You do it out of 5 or 10 or 100, like, who ranks things out of 4? So we're continuing that tradition along. So if our rankings sound low, that's why. It's out of 4, not out of 10 or whatever. So, a 3 is actually like above average. All right, T.
Okay. One of the more controversial movies of the year, which you may or may not have seen. I don't know if I convinced you to see it or not. It Ends With Us.
Nope, didn't see this one, but we did have that fun little talk about all the controversy.
Right, and it's still on. It got reignited again recently, but basically a movie about essentially domestic abuse and the cycle it can have in families' lives and how they deal with that. I enjoyed it at the time. In retrospect, it was just okay. I'll give it 2.5. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it wasn't like bad. It was kind of just, it was okay, but like, wasn't fabulous. But I did enjoy seeing it when I was there. Yeah. So
were you a fan of the book?
So I actually picked up the book to read, and then I returned it because I needed to pay rent. So I actually haven't gotten around to reading it. My book club that I was in, I guess, read it before I actually got into the group, and they seem to like the author at the very least. So
okay,
but that's interesting. Yeah, it is adapted from a book. But go on, Whiskey. What's next for you?
Well, for anyone who was worried that we weren't going to be drinking at all this episode, I know for sure this is one T saw. Drink, bitch. It's Lisa Frankenstein.
Oh my god, yes! That was, yes. I love it. Okay, hold my bottoms up.
Man, meat is sweet.
Yeah, Lisa Frankenstein. This is definitely in my top 2 of the year.
Okay,
I will definitely say that.
Wow, and that's funny. I can kind of guess what I think your movie of the year is going to be.
Yeah.
So no, this was great. Great directorial debut by Zelda Williams, Robin Williams' daughter. I completely forgot she was the director until I stayed for the credits. Also, this is Diablo Cody, who wrote Juno, among other movies like or TV shows, United States of Terra. She also did Jennifer's Body. She kind of disappeared. Again, going back to the beginning of last year, like we were talking about, like, oh man, where did she go? So she wrote this really good horror comedy. And I really appreciate a lot of nods to the original film.
Yeah.
Excellent performance by Cole Sprouse, who basically
grunted the entire movie.
Have any dialogue for the whole movie, but it's kind of like a sillier retelling of Frankenstein in the suburbs, and it's a teenage girl resurrecting, a corpse and getting into shenanigans, and that's all we can really say. But it is very funny. And it also doesn't really... Another thing I appreciated is, like, the whole point of Frankenstein is that Frankenstein is the real monster. He's kind of the real bad guy, not the monster he brings to life.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say, like, Lisa is, like, an irredeemable monster, but she's kind of becomes the villain throughout the movie.
Yes.
I don't know if you would agree with me with that. She sort of becomes a bad person. I thought that was another kind of nod to the original thing, but I really enjoyed it. It was a bomb financially.
Sadly. Well, and recently I've been seeing it pop up. Recently, I've been seeing it pop up on lists of worst movies of the year, which I am very upset about. Well, those ranking lists that you see all the time, not like official published
crazy.
Ones. But I'm just like, I was like, I don't know. Did we even see the same? Like, did we even see the same? Like, I thought it was, because I'm not really, and Whiskey can attest to this, a horror comedy person. I mean, we found some that I enjoy. Most recently, being what was that one called? Dale and Tucker versus Evil. Or is it Tucker and Dale?
Tucker and Dale. But
yeah,
yes.
I always get it backwards. Tucker and Dale versus Dale. Loved that. But with at least Frankenstein, it was a horror comedy. And what I really liked about it is it didn't stray too much into gross out stuff, which I think usually happens a lot with horror comedies. Loved that. I really loved, and me, love. There's a love story going on. There's a lot going on, but it was fantastically written. I think it had a fantastic production design also. I don't know. I just don't know how people saw that and thought it was bad. Like, it was so good. Like, I went and saw it twice.
I stand by my proclamation at the beginning of the year last year that it's going to become a hot topic movie.
I think
it's
so.
going to be one you're going to see and I think it will get recognized.
It's before its
because
time.
I don't think it's. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's like genius or anything, but for like a horror comedy, and especially if you're someone who respects the original movie and stuff, it's clever. It's funny. It's genuinely funny, and there's a lot of things to like about it. I gave it a 3 out of 4. What about you?
I gave it a 4 out of 4.
Oh my goodness, you think it's perfect.
I really did think it was one of the best movies of the year. I really did think so.
It's probably in my top 10, maybe closer to the bottom, but
how dare you?
Again, the fact that I was not even aware that people were ranking it so low, so that's shocking. But it's your turn.
Okay. Here we go. Mix it up. Hopefully I don't draw that ball. Okay. Oh, okay. We'll have a lot to talk about here. Nosferatu.
Ooh, wow.
Just
I was wondering if that would...
I got that one right in under the wire.
Well, and I was also wondering, because obviously with the way T's doing his picks, could go out of order. So, yeah, let's get into it. Yeah, I nagged T into seeing this because I know what T likes, and I was watching this just being like, this checks so many of your boxes. It's like the time period, the love story, the fact that there's, kind of a more female-led sort of, the woman has agency in the plot. She's not just like a damsel to be rescued, which is a big difference between Dracula and Nosferatu.
Yeah.
And again, we're not going to spoil it. For anyone who, for some reason, because this is a thing, apparently a lot of people don't realize the history of Nosferatu. So for anyone who listens to the podcast and is not aware, Nosferatu is a copyright infringed, it's a knockoff of Dracula.
I mean, it's it technically shouldn't exist. Actually,
because it
was supposed to be destroyed.
Yep. So the story goes that Bram Stoker's estate, because he wasn't alive when the movie came out, but it only came out 27 years after the book, and his widow sued over copyright infringement, and it was found to be guilty of said copyright infringement, and all copies were ordered to be destroyed. However, one copy made it to the United States, where Bram Stoker never filed for copyright of Dracula. Therefore, in the United States, Dracula has always been in the public domain, which I also think is kind of hilarious. I don't know about you. The year Dracula came out, you could have, if you lived in the United States, movies didn't really exist at that time, but if they did, you could have just made a Dracula movie. But yeah, so, and the other thing I find kind of funny is to avoid copyright infringement, there's changes, obviously the character names are different, but more to its credit. And I remember watching the original Nosferatu when I was a teenager, and I remember being like, I actually like this better than Dracula, and I haven't really rewatched it since then, so I thought I was just being a teenage contrarian, oh, actually. But revisiting the original and this movie, I'm like, oh, I know why I like it, because it's more, as a monster, Count Orlok, he carries a plague with him. It's not just he's feeding on people, but death follows him. And I remember that being really kind of more intimidating. As goofy as he kind of looks in the original, the fact that he is just this force of evil, that's kind of what Dracula is, but it's much more.
Well, as they say in the movie, he's death himself.
Yeah, exactly. And that too, he, I think, calls himself Appetite at one point, and it's anyway, that, the visual design of Count Orlok in the original I thought was cool. Also, for anyone who doesn't know, the original is German Expressionist, which is a visual style that's very, very high contrast with dark and light. There's a lot of angular kind of exaggerated geometry and things, and it's a whole thing. If you like Tim Burton, you essentially like German Expressionism. The thing I kind of noticed with this one, I wouldn't call this new one German Expressionist. It's much more gothic.
Yeah,
and I think that kind of made. I think that made some of the film people, because that's another thing. Before I saw this movie, I was seeing critics really kind of saying that this was like a disappointment, which made me worried until I saw the movie. And then sure enough, like average Joe moviegoers just thought it wasn't scary. Fair enough. I mean, like and they thought some things were like funny. I think the story is really nice. I was really surprised by some of the heavy themes, like good and evil, and, you know, kind of redemption, and like, you know, having this moment of weakness, like where there's a lot going on thematically in the story. But I found it entertaining as well. Like if you just like vampire movies, I think you would like this just fine. The only thing, like if you're the sort of person where you need to be like terrified, I would say, you know, probably not going to scare you all that much if you watch a lot of modern horror and stuff. So I gave it a 3 out of 4. Again, not a work of genius, not Robert Eggers' best movie, but I enjoyed it just fine. I thought it was a good movie. What do you think, T?
So I liked a lot of like the set design. I liked the main character. She gets a little crazy sometimes, which I think was interesting. I thought Thomas was adorable. As I told you before, I did ship him and Count Orlok at one point in watching the movie. But I do think it is really long, though, for what it is.
Yes.
And I do think there are definitely parts that drag.
Yes.
So
actually forgot to mention that. Like I saw this with my sister because I was home for the holidays and all that stuff, and me and her basically agreed, like, if this were 90 minutes like Eggers' best movies, this would be perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the only real that's the thing that's keeping it from a 3.5 or a 4 for me. Like if it was chopped up a little bit so it was exactly 90 minutes, I think it would be a perfect movie.
Right. And so I think that I enjoyed the love story part of it, but like I said, there's a lot of dragging and there's just, you know, there's just some like choices I think were interesting. They made with the story that I was like, really? So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 2.8 out of 4. Not a bad movie at all. It's a very visually beautiful film to watch, and like I said, I really like the love story. I thought it was great because in a way, it does kind of show how love can conquer evil. Because I do feel like that's something that's kind of left out of a lot of modern horror movies. It's kind of like that's considered like cliche, and so.
Well, that's actually one of the reasons I think I liked it as a teenager. I'm not going to say what the ending is.
Yeah.
But I will say that, so I'll spoil Dracula. In Dracula, the ending is that, you know, Van Helsing and Mina's fiance go to his house and stake him while he's in his coffin. That is not what happens in this movie, and I actually kind of like how it's like a non-violent way of vanquishing the monster.
Yeah.
I think it's more interesting, and again, it gives Emma, I think it's Emma in Nosferatu.
I thought it was Ellen.
Ellen, thank you. Ellen, it gives Ellen some agency.
Yeah,
so
no, it definitely does.
I think the ending is a little bit better. It also feels kind of fairy tale-esque.
It does, yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, anyway, so I can't say much more than that without giving it away. But yeah, great movie.
Yeah, it was
and I guess it's my turn again.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I don't think you've seen this one, so we can take a break with the drinking. But Bob Marley, One Love.
No, my grandmother saw it, though.
Yeah, you know, so this was like early in the year, and I remember critics were hailing this, and, you know, we were racing to get to 20 movies, and I figured, you know, another thing when we're doing this end of the year recap thing, I try and throughout the year kind of spread myself out so I'm not just reviewing one genre. Obviously, there's like some horror movies I missed because I was seeing other things. And so, like, a musical biopic, it's like, for instance, I missed the
Back to Black.
Back to Black. I missed that.
I forgot about that one. That
so
was
anyway,
one I wanted to see, too.
Yeah, right? It was kind of there and gone, and I heard the reviews weren't very good, but I didn't see it. So, Bob Marley, One Love. I really liked it at the time that I saw it, but one thing I do kind of like about how we do this episode is I like to not rate anything until right before, just so I have time to like stew on things. And sometimes I'll even forget about a movie until I look at the list and stuff. And I didn't forget about this one, but I don't think it hits as hard as it did when it came out. And I think part of that is it was like February, you know, it's the lull in the year where they're just kind of releasing stuff. And we'll see how things go. At the time, I was like, oh, this guy might get like an Oscar nomination for his performance as Bob Marley. I'm not really feeling that. I did find it interesting because like I know Bob Marley's music, but I don't really know his history. So it was kind of fun watching it just in like learning, because I couldn't even remember how exactly he died and stuff like that. So I think the setting is kind of compelling because I didn't realize all of the political stuff going on in Jamaica at the time.
Right.
So like if you're a Bob Marley fan, this will be an easy 4 out of 4. But if you're just like a casual viewer, I think it's a good movie. But I don't think it's anything like jaw-dropping or, you know, it's not going to wow anybody. So I gave it a 2.5. It's good, but, you know, especially after a year of a lot of good movies, it's okay. I would watch it again, but I'm not going to say it's one of the best of the year. All right, your turn, T.
Okay, let me see. I have... Just so everyone knows, keeping on theme, I am using one of my Taylor Swift popcorn buckets as the holder for this. I have a big basket of them because these ornaments are so big. I have a big basket of them, and I got tired of picking it up, so I put them now into the smaller popcorn bucket. A few of them. So let's see. All right. Let's see. We have one here. Okay. Oh, I don't know if you saw this one. I talked to you about it. Conclave.
Conclave? I have not seen that one.
At least tell me you've at least heard of it.
Conclave.
Are you serious?
It sounds familiar. We'll go into it. Maybe it'll ring some bells.
It's okay. So Conclave, it's like Ralph Fiennes, Isabella Rossellini, Stanley Tucci. It basically takes place during the time of when the Pope has passed away, and they call the conclave to vote on the new Pope.
I saw like a trailer.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember this, but it's one of those where like I saw a trailer who knows how long ago and kind of forgot about it. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's about that process of them finding the vote, but there's a lot of intrigue, you know, strange stuff. There's politics and stuff happening within the conclave itself. It's really interesting. It basically says what it is. You know, it's about the selection of the new Pope, but there's like secrets, intrigue, a lot of stuff. It looks like though it is a serious awards contender though. There's been a lot of buzz surrounding it, and I do think it will at least I do think it's gonna be nominated for Best Picture. It's really good. Now it's very much a talking heavy movie, like very much like Oppenheimer was. So like don't expect for a lot of, you know, like visual drama, I guess is what I'm saying. There is some stuff, but you know, not a lot of that. But I enjoyed it. Of course, you know, I being Catholic also have, you know, a fascination and an understanding of the Vatican. Right? Lest we forget the episode where I explained to you the difference between the Vatican and the Vatican II. What episode even was that? Oh my god, it was that one with that really bad ending with the horror movie. The Last Exorcism. Yes, that one. That was good until the ending. And I was like, this frustrates me because then I went to the whole history of the Vatican. So yeah, I have an interest in that. But I do think just as a story, though, it is very interesting. And I think it was very well done. Like I said, serious awards contender. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3 out of 4. And I do recommend that you do go see it, because I do think you will enjoy it.
I probably will.
And
like,
it's not as long as
I'm not
Oppenheimer. It's not as long as
I'm
Oppenheimer.
not Catholic, so I find it interesting, but I'm not like invested in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like So, my turn. I know you didn't see this one. It's another Netflix movie, Spaceman. And I was intrigued by this one because of the surrealist imagery that they were showing when I was scrolling through Netflix, and the fact that Adam Sandler was the lead.
Oh, okay.
And it was him doing another serious movie.
I thought he was going to do bad movies now.
Right? You know, he said years ago, if he didn't win Best Actor for Uncut Gems, he was making Grown Ups 3. Where is Grown Ups 3, Adam Sandler? You made a promise.
Well, my favorite part of that whole promise was he said he was going to start making bad movies. And I'm just like, oh, you mean all those other ones were on accident?
I mean, anyway, that's a whole other discussion. You know about the conspiracy theory that it's just his way of going on vacation and writing it off, right?
Oh my god, I love that.
It's like, oh hey, Drew Barrymore, want to go on a vacation to Hawaii, and we'll do like a rom-com. I don't know. It could be about you forgetting things. Yeah. Okay. Well. Anyway, so Spaceman. It's like another weird thing about it. I discovered as I was watching it, and the credits were rolling and stuff. It was like produced by like the Czech Republic.
What?
Like it's weird. It's like a Czech movie, and like the government put money into it or whatever. I guess it might be based on a book written by a Czech author. It's about a spaceman going on a long journey into space. And then he encounters an entity on his ship, and it becomes very surreal and very talky, and that's all I can really say. If you're into, like, science fiction, it doesn't really do anything science fiction. Like, it's not talking about, like, physics, or it's not talking about any weird developments in the future. It's kind of Adam Sandler and this entity who I wish I had written the actor down. I remember it was played by someone famous. Whatever. This entity that's called Manouche, sort of talking, and Adam Sandler sort of lays his flaws bare, and it's like a therapy movie in space with an alien that I'm not going to spoil what Manouche looks like, but it's not bad. But it's also not... This was one, when I saw it, I thought it was going to be one of my favorites of the year. But again, as the year has progressed and other movies have come out, it's been kind of pushed down.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend it. If anything I just said sounds intriguing to you, I think you will enjoy it. I did not dislike this movie, but it is kind of a weird one. And also Adam Sandler did a great performance. It's interesting how he can do that when he wants to, but I give it a 2.5. Really good, but nothing mind-blowing.
Awesome. Okay, so Spaceman gone. The next drawing, I don't know, I kind of like doing this. I've been watching all of those videos of those people who sell those self-defense keychains, and that's gave me this idea. They're always like, oh, she picked our 15 mystery ball scoop and TikTok package video. I have to send you that. Those. I spent too much time watching.
I thought it was random how you decided to do this. I'm not against it, but I was like, huh? Why? Well, wonder why he thought of doing that. Now I know.
Oh, you'll enjoy this one. And I mean that sarcastically. This movie would be absolute torture for you. Christmas in the Spotlight.
You just watched a bunch of Christmas movies last minute, didn't you?
No, I have some. There's reasons why I picked some of these. First off, another one came out in November, so chill out. This one is a Lifetime movie.
Oh boy.
And it is basically a ripoff of the Taylor Swift Travis Kelce story. And I will say it was not that great of a movie. Like people who like I thought it was even bad by like Hallmark standards. But the one thing I did enjoy about it is because, oh my god, it was so funny. The character's name, the Taylor Swift of it, her name is Bolin, and her fans are called Arrowheads, like Arrowhead Stadium.
Wow.
And because she's Bo, like bow and arrow. And there was a bunch of lines in the movie that were just straight up like rip-offs of lines from Taylor Swift songs just to do like fan service. It was so funny. But I enjoyed that part of it. But 1.5, it wasn't that great. But there was a few movies that came out that were inspired by this whole thing. But I don't know. That might be your punishment for the Academy Awards this year.
Is to watch? Oh yeah, I could watch it and give a quick review.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You would die. It's so funny.
We'll see. Maybe this will be the year I win. But get ready to drink again, biatch, because up next is Dune Part 2.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. Let me refill my glass. Give me that peach goodness.
Peaches.
Okay. Oh my god.
So I knew
Oh, great. Thank you. The way you said peaches there gave me a flashback to Creep, and you just ruined my peach whiskey for me. Thanks.
So, I nagged T into seeing this because I figured it was going to be one of the best movies of the year, and it did not disappoint. We weren't doing this episode format back when the first Dune came out, but that was easily my movie of the year back then. It got me into the book series, which I am still currently reading. I'm on Children of Dune. But man, like I've known Villeneuve is a great director in sci-fi. I watched Blade Runner 2049. He was great with Arrival. Like, it's his genre. I'd say he's like the best science fiction director, like filmmaker alive. And he makes this so, it's weird because it's like it almost feels like an art house movie with some of the like art direction and with Zimmer's score. Like it's weird, but without being off-putting. And I'm not the only one who feels that way, obviously, because it's drawing in a big, it almost made $1 billion at the box office. So I'm not the only one that feels that way. Steven Spielberg and James Cameron both said that this is one of the best science fiction films of all time, and that's really saying something coming from both of them, because they've got movies like E.T., or James Cameron's got Avatar, so like massive props. It's a really good space opera. It's more like, fans of the book would call it a humanist science fiction, and it's much more about society and religion and spirituality and how people can be manipulated by systems and social engineering and things like that. It's got a lot of big ideas, but it's also fun. You've got giant sandworms, you've got sword fights, you've got villains. It's got all of the makings of Star Wars, but with all of the thinky bits of like an adult movie, and that's why some people have called it Star Wars for adults. But it didn't disappoint, and I was kind of holding off. I don't give out 4s very frequently, but I did get to rewatch this, and it holds up. It's great. The only complaints I have nothing to do with the movie. They just have to do with changes from the book, which are not valid complaints in my opinion if you're reviewing a movie. On its own, 4 out of 4, perfect in my opinion. But what'd you think, T?
So, it's a very interesting thing for me. It's like I left this movie upset that I didn't get it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, because I know it's very well made and the story makes sense to everybody else. I see these movies and I'm like, see, this. I ask you a ton of questions after I see this. And and I'm just lost to me. So, and I don't mean this as a critique on the film as a whole. For me, it's gonna be like a 2.5 just because I feel like I was lost a lot in it. And I do feel like
canceled.
I what?
Canceled.
I know, canceled. Everyone hates me. But it's like, I don't think it's a bad movie though, but it's also one I didn't understand and I thought was like really long, and I don't think it needed to be. I still that I do think is like my only issue with it. I do think that they could do with some editing, but I don't really understand a lot of what's happening in the movie, and I always have to do like a follow-up question session with Whiskey being like, hey, what was happening here, what was happening with this? But it's definitely one I'm not going to give people side eye if they say they enjoy this. There are a lot of movies I give people side eye when they say that they love this or enjoy this. This is not one of them, because I will totally admit that this is definitely a me and my personal taste thing. But yeah.
And as someone who loves the movie, I'm going to back you up and say that's very valid. One thing when I saw the first movie, like, in my opinion, these are good enough at explaining themselves without going into crazy detail on things that you can understand the gist of what's happening. And that's how I felt seeing the first movie. And it's interesting because the first movie I saw before reading any of the books, and I saw this one after completing the first book,
yeah.
So it's an interesting perspective shift, because the first one I was kind of I was excited to read the book because I wanted some extra info on some of the weird things I didn't get.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. Like, there were weird things I didn't get, but they weren't to the point where I was completely lost.
Yeah.
You know, like watching the first movie, I didn't know what the Sardaukar were, but I got that they were a big evil army.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't need to know all of the stuff behind that. And same deal with like sandworms, you know, like there's literal glossaries in the book Dune about things like mentats and like all this. And it's great for that. But one thing I really praise these movies with, in my opinion, you can at least follow what's going on without needing necessarily a whole glossary. You feel differently, which I think is a valid complaint.
Yeah.
So even though I disagree, I don't think you should get any shit for it.
And I feel like I got it enough, like I said, to follow the movie, but there's enough stuff going on in addition to the actual just, you know, straight line plot that I'm just like,
yeah.
Why? What is this? What is this? Now, there were quite a few scenes though that I remember in this one that I don't remember in the first one that I think just out of context were hilarious.
Yes. Well, and also like when you're dealing with like religion and belief systems, people do not act rationally.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's kind of part of the whole story, right? Is, you know, it's about this demagogue figure who's becoming almost kind of a like it's an anti-hero. That's it's a hero's journey flipped on its head. Because the whole point, you know, and we're not going to spoil the whole Dune series or whatever, but like the point is that it's taking the idea of like this heroic figure conquering the big evil emperor, and it's kind of casting doubt on it.
Yeah.
You know, like, is this person really a good person?
Right.
And that's the whole point of the Dune series, is it's like about how we as humans can get so tied up in our faith and our belief systems that we become blinded by the fact that we are actually propping up people into positions of power that might not need to be there.
Right.
Or, you know, and that's the point. So there is weird stuff in Dune, and part of it is also from all the backstory and glossaries and stuff, and also part of it is from the religion. You said that this one was harder to follow. I think a lot of it probably does have to do with like the water of life ceremony.
Yeah.
And the Fremen and like all of the religious stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, and that is, frankly, maybe we'll review it at some point. It'd be kind of fun to see your reaction to the 1984 Dune. Because if you think this one is bad, like, or hard to understand, my God, that one is just, I saw it in middle school and I was just like, what is this?
Well, I've
been aware.
I have read though that a lot of people said that a lot of people that one does have its own following though. You know, people who were fans of the books, and they do like that
there's
one.
There's like things about it I think are neat, but it just also like doesn't. There's things I didn't get it when I saw that movie. When I saw that movie in like 6th grade or whatever, I thought, wow, that was weird. Kind of like Star Wars. And then I like learned it was a book series, and all I thought was like, wow, this is odd. It's an interesting take on things, but it completely omits things like the Bene Gesserit breeding program, which is like the whole point. Like, part of what intrigues me about Villeneuve's films, which are also more faithful to the book, is that critique of like, is Paul Atreides really a messiah? And that's what I think is so interesting about the series that was not in the 1984 version. That's just like a straight up Paul is space Jesus. He's the hero, blah, blah, you know. Whereas in this one, it's kind of like, is he though? Like, he's a genetic experiment and all this other. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And we could talk about it for hours, but I give it a 4 out of 4. What about you, T?
I gave it a 2.5 out of 4.
That's right. You said that already. All right, moving on. What is the next one from your bag of tricks?
Doing that, hopefully we can pick up some ASMR peoples too. No. All right. And in this one, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, got this one. Oh, The Fall Guy. I think you saw this one.
No, I didn't.
Oh my God.
I didn't get a chance to, but glad you did. So let's hear it, T. How was it?
It's a solid. Well, first off, most people don't realize that this is actually a movie version of an intellectual property that's been around since the 70s. A lot of people don't realize that. But it was a really good, solid action film. There are some deviations from it. In this case, he's an actual used as a fall guy for some stuff that's going on. Whereas in the series, he's kind of more. He is a stuntman who works in the film industry, and stuff happens. He is used as a fall guy for stuff that's going on. In addition to being the actual stunt person that falls all the time, he is the fall guy. Which I think is hilarious about this movie, though, is I don't think they did enough press with Ryan Gosling's actual stuntman. They did some stuff with him, but I don't think there was enough because he had a stunt double in this movie too. And so I think not having him in the foreground more, like in press, was kind of like anti what the movie was kind of about. Anyway, but yeah. It's a solid action film. Even if you don't know the intellectual property of the series back in the 70s, where it was like a stunt guy who works, I think if I remember correctly, he was like a bounty hunter, like on the side. But it's a solid film. It's a solid action film. I don't know why a bunch of people didn't see it. My actual guess about this is because of the premise of it being about a stuntman. I do kind of think the general public was just like, oh, do we need another movie about Hollywood talking about itself? So that is a problem that they make a lot of movies about themselves.
True.
So I do.
Although it's kind of sad, we had a whole segment this year about how stunt men and stunt women are sort of, not treated with respect. We had that whole thing about just how many injuries occur in the. It'd be
and they
nice,
go underreported.
like you said, in the marketing. Like, oh, instead of meeting Ryan Gosling, we're talking to his stunt man. That would have been a cool marketing angle. And marketing seemed to be what killed this movie because, you liked this movie, critics liked this movie, just no one went to see it.
Yeah.
And that's, now that I'm remembering when this came out, that's part of the reason I missed it, was that this was one of a couple of movies that were bombing.
Yeah.
And I opted to see a different one that was out at the same time, that if I had not seen it when I did, would have missed it out of theaters. And we'll be getting to that one fairly shortly, but yeah,
it was very good. I do recommend that you do get a chance to see it. It's a fun time. Okay, you're up.
I'll check it out. What did you give it though?
I gave it 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4. Awesome. So next one, I know you didn't see. Love Lies Bleeding.
Yeah, definitely did not see that.
So I think I said this early in the year. I don't know. So the reason I had even heard of this movie, and anyone listening along can Google this while you're listening if you find this funny. I thought it was a hilarious story. So some dude got arrested back when this was out in like.
Oh, you told me about this
March.
When I went to go see Nosferatu.
Yeah, well, and I made a joke about don't become this guy when you see Nosferatu, because
we were talking about how horny this movie is.
About how horny it is. Yeah, so some dude got arrested at a screening. I think he was also at like a nice theater. It was like an Alamo Draft House, or like one of those places where you get like a table or something. But he brought in like a fifth of whiskey and a bunch of cigarettes. And like he got blackout drunk and like passed out while jerking off to this movie.
Oh my God.
And then in that funny news story, they took like a mini paragraph to explain what the movie was about. And I was like, oh, that actually sounds kind of interesting. It also makes sense why he's being a pervert, because it's about like a lesbian romance kind of thing. So what it's about, it's like a crime thriller about a lesbian couple, and one of them's a bodybuilder competitively, and it's very much like an A24 movie, because that's who produced it. But Kristen Stewart is in it. Best performance that I've seen her in, to be honest. I don't try to be, but I've been a bit of a Kristen Stewart hater in the past. Not for lack of thinking she seems like a cool chick, as a person. I've just never really been wowed by her performance. But could be that I just Really identified with her character. Over last year, I also got a gym membership and quit smoking, which was kind of something else she was doing. Is like she's in the process of quitting smoking cigarettes. So I was just like, oh my god, this is me if I were a lesbian. But it's very, very violent. But also, like, it's good. It's hard to explain without, like, getting into spoilers. Also, big shout out to Kristen Stewart's co-star, Katie O'Brien. So she is a real bodybuilder, and she's been doing some acting. The first time I actually saw her was in season 3 of The Mandalorian. Anyone who watches that show, she was that, officer for Grand Moff Gideon. Anyway, so she did a great job, and I give it a 3 out of 4. Also, the music was awesome. There's a bunch of really good scores this year. Dune, I already mentioned, excellent score by Hans Zimmer. This, the music, I didn't write down the composer, but Love Lies Bleeding, awesome soundtrack. But yeah, 3 out of 4, great movie.
There's a bunch, I forgot to say, there's a bunch of Dune fanboys that are upset that Dune 2 isn't eligible. The score for Dune 2 isn't eligible for Oscars because a lot of it was reused from the first. A certain percentage of it was reused from the first movie. They're upset.
Don't they do that all the time though?
They do, but it has to be a certain percentage is new.
Well, I'm pretty sure he won the Academy Award for the first one, unless I'm mistaken. So, okay, good. He wins again.
But like, they were all upset because it was eligible, but Wicked is technically eligible.
Okay.
And they were like, well, it existed before. And I'm like, yes, but the difference is whole new orchestrations and arrangements had to be written for this. That didn't exist.
And there are some new tracks in Dune 2. It's still really good.
No, I know. I'm saying it's just whatever the percentages of it is new.
I got you.
Anyway, so on to the next one.
Well, and also one last thing with Love Lies Bleeding. I mentioned this when we were talking about women in cinema in a previous thing, but was also directed by a woman. So there you go.
Fabulous. Let's go, girls. And so more people aren't creepy in your movies. All right. Next up. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Okay. We have Argyle. Did you see Argyle?
I missed it.
Oh my god. Okay, so maybe we won't be getting as drunk as we thought. I mean, there's still a lot here, but
you forget, T. I have got 30 movies on my list, so we have just cracked the surface.
So Argyle, spy thriller, came out, wasn't well received. I enjoyed it. I'm weird though. I kind of just like quirky, bizarre things. The movie wasn't that. I mean, it wasn't like anything fabulous. So definitely, it's gonna be like a 2. It's definitely gonna be a 2.5 out of 4.
Wasn't there some sort of weird Taylor Swift connection with that?
There was
people. It was like a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, they thought that she'd written the book, the movie, the novelization of the movie or something, and that turned out not to be true. But the thing I didn't like is that this rumor was going around, but the marketing people did not come out and say, no, that's not true. And they didn't do that on purpose because they were hoping to capitalize on Swifties rushing to the movie.
Well, what a shame. What a shame that the Swifties didn't come out. Shame on you for not supporting Taylor when she finally wrote her movie, guys. How dare you? How dare you not come out and see Taylor's movie that she wrote?
So, spoiler, she didn't write it, and the novelization wasn't that great anyway. But the movie was just okay. I mainly go because I think Sam Rockwell is absolutely adorable, and he was in this movie. He was great as per usual. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was cute, but it wasn't anything great. Like, definitely The Fall Guy was a better action movie.
Well, I thought it was the premise for anyone who hasn't heard of Argyle, the premise is that there's this woman author who writes spy thrillers.
Yeah.
And everything she writes comes true in reality. So now a bunch of spies want to kidnap her.
Right.
So that she can predict what's going to happen or something. That's what I got from the trailer, and I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was a really good premise. I ended up missing it, but as far as like a setup for like kind of a rom-com-y action movie, I thought it was a funny idea.
It was it was funny, but I don't think it was executed the best way. I still enjoyed it, but I will acknowledge 2.5, definitely serviceable, definitely a nice background movie. But I did think Fall Guy was better.
Ooh. Ooh.
And on to the next. Your turn.
Alrighty, okay. There's every so often there's what I will call a viral movie, one that everyone's talking about, and it's usually on a streaming platform. I think the best example I can think of from a few years ago is Bird Box. You remember Bird Box.
Oh, yeah.
You remember how everyone was talking about Bird Box. So everyone at one point early this year was talking about Damsel. Ooh, everyone hated Damsel. They were like, ooh, it's woke, it's Hollywood propaganda, it's awful. So it went like viral, but in a way that everyone was just saying it was an awful movie. This was also Millie Bobby Brown in a lead role outside of Stranger Things, and I can't really think of anything else she's been in. So, like the good curious content creator that I am,
I think she was a random girl.
I
think she was a random girl in an episode of Modern Family before Stranger Things would go on.
You know what I mean. Since Stranger Things,
yeah.
She hadn't really done much. So I'm like, well, does it suck? Is it? And I didn't know what it was about either. So going into it, awesome premise. Just before I get into, because it's got flaws, but so this is about the name kind of gives away some of it, damsel in distress. So this is like a fantasy movie where this princess is set to marry this prince, and it turns out, and I'm not going to go far beyond setting up the premise with, because again, no spoilers. This is all in the trailer if you went on to Netflix or to YouTube and looked up the trailer. So it turns out, is being tricked into being a sacrifice for a dragon. And that's, so like the prince is evil, and it's like as soon as they marry, and it's this whole thing, you learn why they're doing it and stuff, right. But the premise is so cool. I love, and the beginning of it, it's like a horror movie. Like when she's, thrown into the dragon's cave, there's like corpses upon corpses of other dead princesses. And it's just, I love visually. It was so cool. And also whoever played the dragon, great job. I could have looked it up or whatever. Like the dragon was great. She has like this thing she's always saying to Millie, like little sparrow. Like it's awesome. Problem is, it's not perfect. It's not particularly what it does well. It's kind of becomes sort of a survival movie. Mm-hmm. And then it has like a big, whole thing where it's like, exposing what actually happened, whatever. I'm sorry. I'm kind of becoming a bit of a Millie Bobby Brown hater. I think she's really good as 11. But having this be the first thing I've seen her in outside of Stranger Things, I'm beginning to doubt she's that great of an actress.
Like she may have been really good in one role.
Yeah, that seems to be potentially the case. So, sorry, I wasn't feeling her performance. When she wasn't, and another thing, the dialogue felt wrong. Like, have you ever like seen a movie where they're trying to do kind of like old timey, medieval talking, but they're not very good at writing dialogue like that? That's what the movie's dialogue felt like. And so I'll give Millie the benefit of the doubt that might be the problem, because when she's doing the survival stuff and she's like not talking and she's just like addressing her wounds and figuring out how to get out of the cave, she's doing a really good job of like physical acting. So it could just be that the dialogue is that bad that it made her acting seem worse. But yeah, across the board, even like the dialogue felt off. It felt bad. So it's got pros and cons. I'm not going to completely meat ride this movie, but it's not as bad and woke and stupid as all of the right-wing reactionaries would have you believe. So I give it a 2 out of 4. It's okay. I think the premise does a lot of heavy lifting. Like that first act is so good. I was like ready to be like, no, this is one of the best movies of the year. But it falls on its face a little bit. At least it does not fall into like a lot of traps where it's obvious how she could escape the cave or anything like that. Like, it does a lot of parts where she's almost there and then the dragon gets her, and like, it's very good, but not perfect. So 2 out of 4. Your turn, T.
All right. Let's see. Oh no, one of them broke open. I'll feel that one later. Here we go. What do we have here? Okay. Twisters.
Ooh.
I thought this was.
I'll let you take this away. We're drinking though.
Yeah, we're definitely drinking. Let's take our drinks first. Okay, Twisters, hands down, probably absolutely an amazing film. I actually do think it's better than the original. And I think that's because this one is a lot more to do with like the sciences and stuff. Because a lot of before Twisters came out, because we really didn't have YouTube or anything, a lot of people had never even seen footage of a tornado before. So they didn't really have an expectation of what to look for and things like that. And so there was a lot of issues with the first one as far as that goes. But with like the introduction of, cell phone cameras and stuff like that, and YouTube, and being able to like, disperse videos, so a lot of people now have seen what they look like, what they can do, and what that looks like. And this movie really did improve on that. And I really did also I liked the story better in this one. I liked everybody who was cast in this was amazing. The special effects were amazing. Actually, just one person who we've talked about many times before said that they thought it was boring. And I'm like, dude, what movie were you watching? I saw this movie probably 6 or 7 times in the theater. I even got to see the coveted 4D experience, which was a wild ride. I loved it. Loved it. They had, in addition to the seats and everything moving, they also had like rain, wind, and fire effects. It was pretty bomb. I loved it. Oh, and lightning too. It was awesome. So I really do think that's something they need to figure out a way to kind of bring that back every so often, because that was a bomb experience. It was like unparalleled. This is like a movie that the 4D experience was made for. But even without the 4D experience, it was really, really just a solid movie, and I loved it. Came out in July of this year. I could not say enough great things about this movie. Not just as a fan of, like certain disaster movies and things like that, but just also as a weather nerd. I really kind of liked it. Now there is, some sort of, strange sort of science, they invent for the movie, which is fine. But the logic that it logically makes sense what they're thinking of, even though it's not real. So it didn't get like bizarre, like woo woo sort of science. So that was good. There was character development. There was growth. There was, I love this. This is like what a disaster movie should be. And yes, cannot say enough amazing things about this movie. It's just bomb. And everybody with J.C. Ridley Scott was really good in it. Anthony Ramos, Glenn Powell was good in it. Just everything was good. And I have my own personal theory that, and I forget what the side, there's like another person on Glenn Powell's team in the movie of Storm Chasers. And I'm like, I have this theory that Glenn Powell's character and him have a history. That's just me. Romantic history. I do think it's there. That's just my own personal theory. But yes, it's definitely a movie I think everybody should see. I need to stop because I'll just keep going on about how good this movie is. You go.
40X, they need to just like re-release movie, because another one that's one of your personal favorites that was really popular in 40X when it came out was Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
So I feel like they just need to like keep old like movies that have already come out in circulation at 40X, because that's one I would go see. But so Twisters.
I had to drive up to Austin. I had to drive like an hour and a half to see it in 40X because there's so few 40X theaters. But go on.
Yeah. So, I really enjoyed this. I think it's like the epitome of what a summer blockbuster should be. I also agree that it's better than Twister. That movie is very dour and very depressing. And just, it's about a guy trying to get his divorce papers signed.
Yeah.
And I can't remember much about the plot. Like, it's very much like a special effects heavy movie.
Yeah.
And this one manages to do that while also having a compelling plot.
Yeah.
And it also has a very good... It punishes you for expecting the worst out of... it's Tyler Owens, right? Or is it Travis Owens?
No, it's Tyler Owens. You kept saying that.
Okay,
I'm like,
good.
No,
it is
Travis Kelce.
No, I wrote it. It's in my notes. That's why I'm like, did I write my notes wrong? So Tyler Owens, you expect him to be a certain way at the beginning of the movie, and the movie does a really good job of, twisting your expectations around, making you feel kind of like a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, there's actual character stuff going on. Again, maybe I'm just not remembering Twister, but that's kind of how, maybe Twister, that's sort of its problem, is I should remember, like, what the characters are.
Well, I mean, there's some stuff going on as far as, like, there's him with his new sort of fiance, and she's really not cut out for his life. Yeah. And then, of course, he's trying to divorce Joe. Joe's just obsessed with all this, and he kind of gets... basically, they kind of rekindle.
What I remember from Twister is Dorothy, and I love that piece of equipment makes kind of a cameo and also sort of becomes, like, important with the plot and everything. And... Anyway, I'm glad you mentioned Glenn Powell. This is not the only movie he stars in that I will be talking about on my list, but he has had quite a year, and I expect him to be blowing up. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he gets an Oscar nomination for this role. I know it's not the type of movie that normally does that, but he is such an iconic little character of this year, and my favorite character in the movie. And again, this goes with, like, you expecting him to be kind of an idiot, redneck guy, and he just really surprises you. His car is one of the coolest movie cars in any movie. I would trust him to drive me into the middle of a tornado any day.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, I think you have done a great job explaining what's so good about it. Great job by the director, by the way.
Yeah.
I forgot his name, but it's an Asian man who I believe was the same director of Minari from a few years ago. So again, with diversity behind the director, in the director's chair, really good. I gave this a 3.5. It's one of my top 10 at least movies this year. Really good, and that's coming from someone. I am not a weather nerd. I am not someone where this kind of movie necessarily appeals to me, but this was so well done. I can't give it enough praise. The only criticism I will give it is kind of a plot point of the movie is how storms are getting worse, and that sort of goes with the whole title, like Twisters, and part of that is obviously you got to up the stakes with a sequel or a spiritual successor, soft reboot, whatever you want to call this. But I feel like they were being a bit toothless in the fact that they clearly wanted to make a point about, like, climate change making things worse, and they just never say anything, which is fair. They just wanted it to be a fun movie, and this is clearly appealing to not, like, movie people, but, like, the Midwest. So they probably don't want to be, if they did that, it would have been, oh, this movie's woke, it's woke. So I get why they didn't do it. It's just kind of annoying how they just keep talking about, the storms are getting worse. Okay, movie, why are they getting worse? Are you going to, like, is that just naturally happening? So whatever, like, it doesn't need to be like a political movie or anything. It's just like, why are you even saying that then? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was kind of, well, and I kind of liked that nod just a little bit, without it going more, like you said, like you thought it was too, I thought it was kind of subversive, because
kind of
it was like, it was a way
problem is that
of bringing the topic in without it being kind of like ham-fisted and feeling like, I'm being hit over the head with something.
I kind of get that, and where it saves itself, I like, and again, no spoilers, but I like that there's sort of a surprise villain at the end of the movie you don't expect.
Yeah.
And that felt a little bit more toothy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's one of those things, like, why even bring it up? As I said, it's like, if you're not even going to go into it, I know that you risk the whole being ham-fisted thing and like putting the politics in where it doesn't belong, but it's just kind of like, unless you're gonna like argue that it's just the natural way of things, why do you keep saying, oh, storms are getting worse, storms are getting worse? Like, the type of people who you know, like, it's kind of like the people who already feel that way about things are going to be like, oh, they're talking about climate change. But, you know, the people who believe that it's a hoax, it's just, what's it even in there for? But that's really my only big gripe about it. Otherwise, it is a perfectly great little Hollywood blockbuster, one of the highest grossing for the summer.
Right.
Didn't it outpace the original too?
I think it did too. Yeah.
Which is saying something, because if I remember correctly, I think Twister was the highest grossing movie the year it came out.
Was it? Let me see. Oh, and his name is Lee Isaac Chung.
That's him. Yes.
It's the second highest grossing film of 1996, behind Independence Day, and it was 10.
Well, there you go. Though that's why. You know what I mean? Like, you can't. So it was behind Independence Day, but you can't compete with that. That movie was absurdly.
After 12 weeks, it had outpaced The Empire Strikes Back.
There you go.
But yeah, no, yeah. So this is I still consider this as a phenomenal movie. That really is a kind of a callback to the classic blockbuster, but with the modern storytelling. That we expect from more higher brow movies of today. So you said you gave it a 3 out of 4. I'm giving it a 4 out of
3.5.
3.5. I'm giving it a 4. I gave it a 4 out of 4. Like I said, I saw this tons of times. And it's one of these ones I can't wait to watch again. And actually, one of the things I will comment this on that the other one really didn't. Maybe there's one scene towards the end, but this one really does kind of comment more, which I do like, on the human toll of tornadoes. The other one, there is a scene towards the end, but it's really kind of more of like, you know, the special effects blockbuster. You know, it causes destruction, but we're really not there for it. You know, they have whole sequences in this movie where, where you know where they're helping after tornadoes gone through. It's wild stuff, but it's really, really good. I think it's sensitive. Anyway. My point is, it's phenomenal. Everyone should see it. 4 out of 4 pitchers of sweet tea is what I'm going to say.
My turn. And you get another break drinking, because I'm pretty sure you have not seen Monkey Man.
Oh my god, I wanted to see that because Dev Patel is so adorable.
Well, it's his directorial debut as well. He's not only the star, but he is the director of the film. Let's see. Funny. I thought this was funny, I guess. So, if I'm reading my notes correctly, I think I just thought it was kind of amusing. I went to the 420 screening on 420. So, double 420s for Monkey Man.
Oh my god.
But,
you pulling out your film stubs?
I think I don't know when I wrote this note, so it was probably right after, and I just was like, oh, that's a funny coincidence. But really good movie by A24. I'm always telling T, no, they don't just do like artsy horror movies. This one was an artsy action movie.
Yeah.
And it's really good. It's I will say it's very simple. Like, I'm not going to go into the story too much. It's kind of a revenge martial arts movie. Takes place in India, which is refreshing, and amazing soundtrack. I don't know how much it's ever come up on this podcast, but I'm a bit of a metalhead. I'm a bit of a heavy metal fan. And one thing a lot of people don't realize is there are metal bands from other countries, and there is a song featured by the band Bloodywood in the movie, which my jaw dropped when it came on, because I was like, no way. No way. He is really good. It's like one of the final climactic fights. But yeah, like the worst thing I can say about it is that it is so, it's very simple. I can't really get into like spoilers without, or, you know, but it's good for a directorial debut by the guy that when I was in high school was starring in, my goodness, one of my million, A Slumdog Millionaire.
There you go. Okay.
You know, it's cool to see him like come full circle, and now he's in the director's chair. And I'm excited to see what he does after this.
We loved him in Hotel Mumbai too.
Yes, I forgot. I was actually wondering if he was the guy in that. So, like, he's great. And I'm very excited to see what he does after this. And he was really good in the martial arts side of things. I believe he did all of his own stunts. I might be wrong about that, but in the fight choreography and everything, he just... phenomenal. Awesome job. 3 out of 4. Your turn.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, that was what I wanted to see. I almost sat down to watch it this past weekend to make sure I got it in. And
the only thing I could say, I still recommend it. The only thing I will say is it is very violent at some points, and I know gore kind of, you know.
So, I was kind of prepared for that because people kept saying, "Oh, is it like John Wick?" That's what people kept asking online. That was a search term.
No, that's actually what I was I was thinking after leaving. I'm like, oh, that was like John Wick, but in India.
Right. Okay, up next we have, let's pop it open. We have, okay, we're going to be drinking here. Furiosa.
Yay! I feel like you're going to get to all the ones that we saw before I get to them on my list.
Right. Well, since I'm doing it randomly, I have no say. I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I still have 12 to get through. So, but Furiosa. Okay, this is an interesting movie. I liked the character a lot in the first one, so I was very excited for this one. But I was kind of just felt like the follow-up, it was interesting, but it was too much. You know what I mean? Like, not like with her character or anything. It was just like, it was too long. It was too, there was lots of, basically, to me, it was almost kind of like they were trying to make a Dune sort of thing for her. Which, I mean, that sounds like unfair because like they both have this whole like sand planet thing going on. But I don't know. It was like, and I was excited. I liked a lot of the action sequences and stuff in it. They're always phenomenal. I love the character of Furiosa. I like sort of the backstory. That was all interesting. It just, I'm like, from the sequences I remember, there's a whole bunch of stuff in between all of them I don't remember. And right now, I could not tell you what the plot of this movie was. I could tell you that it's basically about Furiosa becoming who she is that we see in Mad Max, Fury Road, but I could not tell you exactly the steps that got her there. So I do just have just some. I like. It was complicated. There was a lot of stuff. I got it in the movie, but it was one that after a few weeks, I'm like, I couldn't tell you what the plot was. I mean, like the generic plot, yes, but like A, B, C, D, and E, I couldn't tell you. And I do think that was something that kind of was felt across the box office with this because it didn't do as well. Now, of course, there is some problems with it being the female-led movie in this sort of quote-unquote man's genre that I know some people, they had issues with that with the Mad Max Fury Road. But
I will give those people some credit more than it being like, oh, it's a woman. One complaint I saw that is pretty valid. A lot of people were upset that Charlize Theron wasn't coming back. Now, what I would say to that is like, it's a prequel. Like, are you going to digitally de-age her?
Yeah.
But I do like that the typical, you know, woman-hating type of person. Like, there was no one who was complaining about it being a Furiosa movie in the sense that it's like, oh, well, she was boring. I don't like women, blah, blah, blah. Like, more people were upset that it's like, oh, well, I want to see Charlize Theron as Furiosa because she's the one who made the character so cool in the first movie. So I give people credit for that. Going off of a lot of what you said, I also did not like this as much as Fury Road, but this is another one I saw with my sister, who is someone who just loves post-apocalyptic stuff like this. She loves Fallout. She loves Boy and His Dog. It's just like a vibe that she really enjoys in fiction. So she actually liked this one better than Fury Road. Okay. So like my thing, I think we even said this, fun fact, anyone listening, we did a review of Fury Road a little while ago. And what I said in that review is still how I feel. That movie's strength is in its simplicity.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's not a slow moment. This movie is much more interested in the world building and the lore.
Right, yeah.
And that is what, because I agree with you. I don't think there's like a clear cut plot. It's just kind of her life up until the point we see her in Fury Road.
Right.
And that's going to be satisfying for some people. I really like Anya Taylor-Joy, so if you're going to replace Charlize Theron with someone, I was more than happy to see her step into the role. But there's fewer action scenes in this, in general. There's good ones. There's that one that's like 20 minutes long on the truck. And there's other like cool things. Like, speaking of that action sequence, I like that George Miller found that little Australian boy who got bullied, and he got to be one of the war boys in that scene. And just little things like that. I also thought it was neat how, and I don't know if you know this, so before it was Anya Taylor-Joy, there was another child actress playing really young Furiosa. They digitally changed her face over the course of the beginning of the movie to make it look more and more like Anya Taylor-Joy, so that like when it switched over to her, it was less jarring and it felt more like she actually aged into it. I thought that was neat, because I also was thinking while I was seeing the movie, like, oh, wow, she actually kind of looks like Anya Taylor-Joy. And I found out after the fact that's what they did.
Wow.
So that's like a neat touch. Also, like, I forgot to mention this in the Dune thing, in the Dune, my section on Dune. This has been a really good year for like villains. That counts for Bill Skarsgård and Nosferatu, who I think should get an Oscar nomination, because holy hell, like, he was so good as Count Orlok. Like, you would not recognize him. Same with Austin Butler as Fade Rautha in Dune 2. And I wasn't expecting him to be a funny villain, but I really liked Dementis in this movie. He was kind of a goofy villain. Like, he was still dangerous, but he was hard to take seriously. And I thought that was kind of refreshing. I don't know how you felt about that, but I thought he was very funny throughout the movie. Yeah. I also loved, in Mad Max fashion, having the silliest vehicles possible. I love how he pulled himself on a chariot pulled by 5 motorcycles.
Yeah, that was like so like grandiose, and just like
the art direction was still tops. Yeah. I also loved the Octoboss, how he looked.
Yeah,
like just. If you like the wacky Mad Max stuff, like, you're not going to be disappointed by this movie, but it's much more slower paced and much more like methodical and about like the characters and the world rather than a story. And I think that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And I feel like a lot of people who liked Fury Road for its simplicity and its action are going to hate this one for exactly the same reasons. So for me personally, I prefer Fury Road, but I didn't think this was like a bad movie.
It wasn't bad. It's just, I kind of thought it was overall, like, unless you were going into it like as a hardcore world builder fan, like you said, I really kind of think it's overall sort of forgettable.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again. I still like it a little bit better than other Mad Max films that I've seen, but it does not surpass Fury Road. I give it a 3.
I'm gonna give it a 2.5.
Fair enough.
Out of 4 pitchers of sweet tea. I lost my train of thought there. You are up next, sir.
All right, and I'm pretty sure you didn't see this. So, up next for me is Civil War.
Oh yeah, no, I avoided that like the plague. Because
the newest Alex Garland film.
It's my own personal issues.
I thought I was going to avoid it, but after, I couldn't resist. He's one of my favorite writers, and his directing has been mostly good. I didn't see Men, but I heard that one was kind of off. But I don't know. I was curious, what he, was it as good as his other stuff? Because I also felt like the trailer, I was kind of on and off. I loved it, but it's not like a movie that gives you the warm and fuzzies. The thing that T avoided it for, and I almost avoided it for, was the idea that it was going to get into like American politics. And it wasn't until like I watched a review by someone saying that how it was more about the journalism that I was like, okay, maybe I should see this. And that's very true. It's not about... It's actually very vague on why there even is a civil war. It's about a group of journalists trying to travel to the Capitol to have an interview with the president. And it's like a road trip movie, essentially.
I would say it's a pretty dark road trip movie, though.
Oh, it's extremely dark. I think, and this is something like I did watch the trailer for Warfare, or whatever it's called, his newest movie. And I told you this in text. I also think it doesn't look very good, but he didn't write it.
That's true.
Something about Alex Garland I've kind of learned over the years. He's interested in the military. I wouldn't say like he's like an army guy, but it goes all the way back to like his film Dog Soldiers, like
okay.
or even unless I'm mistaken, I do think he did write 28 Weeks Later, and as I told you, it's much more of like kind of an action movie. So he has like an interest in the military, and it comes through like one of my favorite Alex Garland movies is Annihilation, where, you know, it's like a bunch of army girls going into, well, they're all scientists, but they still have machine guns and
right.
Anyway, he's interested in the military, and so this isn't really like on. It's from the perspective of journalists, and you do see some really like gut-churning, horrific stuff as they get closer and closer to ground zero, where all the war is like coming to a close, the president's getting closed in on, and it's like in his most desperate moments when they're trying to interview him. But I think where it's strong is in its depiction of, you know, let's say journalists in Gaza right now, you know, just like being in these really intense situations where just because you have a press badge and a camera does not mean that you're going to get out alive. And that's sort of where it's like a love letter to these people laying down their lives to try and get the story straight for everyone else.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best written movies of the year. I may be wrong, but I'm going to say now on January 12th, before any of the Oscar nominations come out, as we're recording this, I have a feeling it will get nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll be wrong, and who knows if it'll win, even if it is nominated, but I think it should be, and it has one of the best final lines in a movie I've seen in a long time. His writing is still strong as ever. You know, not one of like my top 10 movies, but very good. I give it a 3 out of 4.
Okay. I want to say, though, that one of the things I read that I thought was interesting after the fact, I read an article from, what is Alex Garland, right? So he said who did it?
Yeah.
Because when I saw that awful trailer for Warfare, which I only found out about it because Kit Connor from Heartstopper's in it.
Yeah, you were mentioning that.
But he was interesting that I somehow came across this quote from him. He said the Civil War was supposed to kind of be like, you weren't supposed to know. He said people were upset that you weren't supposed to, that we didn't know what the issue was. He said, well, that was kind of supposed to be like essentially like how we view lots of foreign conflicts. Like we're seeing all this stuff happen, but we really don't know like we have a general idea, but we don't know what the root cause is. But instead we were transitioning it to our shores and kind of make us feel this is what we, you know, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable and stuff, but to the point to where it's like, will you view stuff happening in your own shores with as much passivity as you do with other stuff? And I thought that was a kind of interesting way to approach it, that he's like, it's basically supposed to be like you're watching something happen in a foreign country. And I thought that was a really interesting take to it. I still won't see it because I have my own like phobias and stuff that this sort of touches on. But I did think that was interesting, and I can kind of applaud him for kind of taking that sort of approach to sort of open our eyes to conflict that happens in other countries by essentially setting it in our own, you know, home front.
The writing's really strong. Another line that if anyone saw the trailer, I won't consider this a spoiler because it's in the trailer, and it's been memed. Like anything that turns into a meme afterwards, I feel like has kind of the cultural consciousness. But there's a bit where I think the actor's name is Jesse Plemons, but he's holding them hostage with his like army guys, and it's like, we're Americans. Okay, what kind of Americans are you?
Right.
Like, it's such a creepy. That's such a good line, though.
But
like,
it feels like it's a very timely
that
line,
is the movie in a nutshell. That is what is so good about it. Is like lines like that. Like, I'm not gonna spoil the final line of the movie or anything, but like, it's just full of like really good writing.
Oh man, when I saw that Jesse Plemons was also in this, I was like, oh my god, we get it. You and Kristen Dunst are married. Like, chill out. We all know that.
I actually didn't know that. That's crazy because they play a married couple in Fargo season 2. So I did not know that.
Right, but yeah, so that's what I'm saying. We get it, Jesse Plemons. You scored outside of your pay grade. Awesome. I'm sorry, Jesse.
He's a pretty good actor.
Jesse Plemons for me will always be the bully from Like Mike. Like I see him. That's who I immediately think of. Anyway, moving on though. All right. Let's see what we got here. All right. We got another one. Okay. This should be a talking point. Wicked.
Woo! I told you, we're going to get to all the movies you and I have seen before, like, it's just going to be like the last 20 minutes is just me rattling off like 10 movies. Anyway, yes, Wicked. So drink.
Well, let me have a sip of my green elixir.
Don't do that if you get pregnant with a baby.
Oh my god, because I've seen the play, there is so much that I literally asked you, I wonder if you figured out stuff that's going to show up in the second one. Because everything has been
I'm not
laid
going,
out
even
for
if
you.
I have.
And I'm like, I want to know.
Even if I have, we're not going to talk about.
Go on, sorry.
Even if I have, we're not going to talk about it because no spoilers. But
right, but I'm just
perchance,
like off camera. What is it, like off the record? There's so much. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie because I was kind of skeptical of this at first, kind of down on it at first because I saw the play and I'm like, why are they splitting it into 2 parts? Which actually I thought was funny that you didn't know. They were splitting it into 2 parts. I remember I told you this, and you were like, "Oh yeah, Wicked." I'm like, "Yeah, you know this is only part 1." You're like, "What?" Because at some point they stopped advertising it as Wicked Part 1, and I have no idea why. My guess is so that people wouldn't wait to see it when the second one comes out. I have no idea why they did that, but which it's interesting to me because I think all the best songs are in the first act. But
I mean, kinda.
Well, kinda. What do you mean? So do you know the soundtrack?
Most of it. Like, it's one of those things where I'm probably... So, fun fact about me, I had a roommate who was a musical theater major. Right. So I have never seen Wicked up until seeing this film. But I knew the soundtrack because I'd heard Defying Gravity and The Wizard and I. And I'd heard all of it a million times because he would just constantly play it. Which is fine. It's a good soundtrack. But that was kind of something I was interested in finally seeing this so I would know what those songs are in context with the story. So it's possible. It's one of those things where I might not know, because the ones that I remembered the most were The Wizard and I and Defying Gravity, and both of those are in this movie. So most likely I have heard songs that are going to be in part 2, but I don't know what they are off the top of my head because it's also hard to remember when you don't have that context. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, one that I don't remember if I ever heard when he was playing the soundtrack was, Dancing Through Life.
Okay.
And I remember that one, partly because that was, the choreography was so great. It's not even one of my favorite songs, but, I remember it because of the context of seeing it in the story and all that stuff.
Dancing Through Life is so much better in the movie than it is in the play. Even on the soundtrack,
I would think so.
I always hated the way it sounded on the soundtrack. I hated that in the soundtrack. And I also hated One Short Day on the soundtrack in the play. Something about Broadway musicals, which is interesting to me, is they always kind of just sound, unless it's an Andrew Lloyd Webber one and it's done epically like Evita, which we will eventually talk about in the show. The soundtrack usually always sounds kind of quirky and funny, and I've always thought, this play has lots of dark themes, and I just feel like the music didn't match the seriousness of the stuff that happens in the play, especially in the second act. But I really did like the orchestration they did here, especially, oh my god, the overture is so beautiful in this movie. I love it so much. I was very happy with that because I liked the overture, but there was parts of it I didn't. Anyway, this movie was like such a great adaptation, and I kind of understood now why they needed to make it 2 parts, because they added a lot more character depth and development that is missing from the play. Now, of course, we all remain to be seen. This part 2 could be a total train wreck. We don't know. But this first one was really good. It was very well done. I actually think I sent you this. It was so well done that I forget who's the director of this one.
So it's the guy, I forgot his name, but it's the guy who did Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights. Which right. Immediately to me was like, oh, that's why it's so good.
In the Heights was so good.
This guy is
John M. Chu.
But there you go, John M. Chu.
He actually received a call from George Lucas as George Lucas was leaving his showing of Wicked to talk about how great this movie was.
So going off of my predictions I've been making for the year, he, in my opinion, again, we are recording this on January 12th. The Oscar nominations have not come out yet. I think he's going to get a nomination for Best Director because I also really liked this movie, and not to take away from the lovely ladies in the leading roles or anyone else, but I think he is a big reason why this movie is as good as it is. Because that's the other kind of thing, like, you know, you were worried how it was going to be. I kind of went into it blind. We talked about this with the whole Glicked thing, and I've talked about this when we've talked about there is no one more scathing than Broadway fans.
Oh, like
they are
theater
ruthless.
kids?
If they don't think it measures up to the play, they will be fucking mean about, you know what I mean? And that's part of the reason I kind of waved away the lead actress's kind of temporary insanity, as I call it, because that kind of stress can make you go a little nuts.
Yeah.
But the fact that the theater kids like this movie, I think, is also like a really good sign.
Right.
And you are, again, like, if you didn't listen to the last episode we put out, like, Wicked was the musical of the 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
This is like, you know, it's funny because the last time, you know, they tried to do a movie musical that was like this big, it was Cats.
Oh God, that was
we know what happened to Cats. But
I think
like this is a big deal
with a discussion of whether or not the source material for Cats was ever actually good to begin with.
That's a good point as well. But my point is, like, this is like, you know, we don't see this as much anymore because back in the day, like, musical adaptations were like the big box office draw. They were the Marvel movies of their time. But this is like, you know, if you were in the 60s and like, oh my God, The Sound of Music, I wonder if it's going to be as good as the Broadway show.
Right.
Like, this doesn't come out as frequent. And that's the thing too. We've had some good musicals, In the Heights, for instance, or, you know, Spielberg's
West Side Story.
Thank you. Those, like, were good, but also how were you going to mess them up? Especially like West Side Story, like, it's Spielberg, of course it's going to be good. But this was so highly anticipated. It was really, you know, it could have sucked. It could have sucked, and the theater kids would have been ruthless. I think to some extent it always would have been, you know, it would have made money. I don't think it was ever going to be a box office bomb, but going into my opinion of it, I went into it blind. Like I said, I knew the soundtrack, you know, very well, but I'd never seen the story. All I really knew was basically, you know, I can't spoil it, so I won't even say it just in case there's anyone like me who never saw it, but I knew the baseline, what it was about, but I didn't know all of the details. This is so good. I was shocked at how dark it got.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in part 2. It's one of the best movies of the year, in my opinion. And that's coming from me. Like, I will say, like, anyone who listens to this show, I know I'm known for not liking romantic movies, but I will say I do like musicals quite a bit.
Yeah.
I've got my own favorites, obviously. Like, I mentioned Sound of Music, Mary Poppins. I like horror musicals like Sweeney Todd, or, you know, Little Shop of Horrors. Like, I've got my favorites, but musicals are great. I have no problem with musicals. Phantom of the Opera, another one. Hey, I'll even say I'm a bit of an apologist for that movie. I know the music musical people don't like that movie so much.
I really like the Phantom of the Opera movie musical.
Right, okay, so we're in the same... I know it's Joel Schumacher. I know not everyone was very good at singing in that movie. I don't care, it's really good. This... I'm very excited for part 2. This is one of the best movies of the year. I think John M. Chu is going to get nominated for Best Director. He might even win, depending on who else is nominated. But for me, this is a 3.5. It's easily in my top 10. It might even be in my top 5. Awesome movie.
Yeah, I love this, and I'm very much hoping that it does get a Best Picture nomination. I do think that's worthy of one.
Oh, it will. That's not even, like, especially the fun thing about Best Picture nowadays is because there's 10 nominations, it's like, if you think it's going to get nominated, it probably will. I think this is going to get nominated easily for Best Picture. Whether it wins is another story, but nomination, in my opinion, it's got to be in the bag.
Well, I think with what I've seen come out this year, if this were to win Best Picture, I wouldn't be upset.
Honestly, I mean, it has a good chance, to be honest. It's, as I said, in my opinion, there's no question it's going to get nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah. I'm very excited to see the next one. But yeah, loved this movie, loved this adaptation. And I will be controversial here and say I actually do think Cynthia is a better Elphaba than OG chick was. I was never a big fan.
You're gonna make her cry for the 200th time.
I know.
She's running out of bodily fluid for her tears.
I know.
She's gonna cry again.
But I was never really a fan of Idina Menzel. I know people love her. I think she was like the OG. She was the OG Elphaba. I really did not care for her. I mean, I didn't see her performance. I heard her on the soundtrack. I really did not care for her voice in the soundtrack. It was just kind of the only one that was available.
She'll be fine. She's also Elsa.
I know. So
she'll be fine. She's Elsa. She was in Enchanted. She was in Uncut Gems.
I will say, though, the only mistake this movie made, and as much as adorable as Jonathan Bailey is, he was clearly too old to play this part. He just was. I was kind of having a little bit of like the Dear Evan Hansen problem again, and I'm like, what? He just clearly looks older than. I mean, everyone is older than high school students, but he looked older than everybody else. And I was just like, okay, maybe we should have picked somebody who looked a little more youthful. But that was like my only complaint. It was so obvious he was not the right age for this.
Also, going off of my "this is a great year for villains" thing, Glenda, Ariana Grande, she's up there with Dementis and Fade Routha, and Nosferatu as one of the best villains of the year.
I see, and I know everybody's been like, Glenda's the villain. It's like, people are like, and this is one of my issues with it, is people, especially online, like the black and white things, she did X next and this, so therefore she's bad. And I'm just like, the friendship they have, and maybe because more apparent in the next one, is more complex than that. It's not just it's hard to describe. The relationship is more complex.
I thought you were going to laugh and get along with me. I didn't realize you were an apologist for Glenda.
I'm not an apologist. I think human relationships are more complicated than I think people are oversimplifying the whole relationship they have with each other. And I do think
I think that's fair. I also think some of it is like me drawing in from the actress's real life a bit as well. She's a great singer though. Like as much as I'm pooping all over Ariana Grande, she did a great job in the role, and she's a pop star. She's got a great voice.
Yeah.
She did a great job in the role.
But that being said, your pick.
My turn. Don't worry, we don't have to drink for this one. Boy Kills World. I shouted this one out months and months ago when I was talking about our bombs and how there was a bunch of good movies that no one went to see. This is a action parody, spoof, funny movie produced by Sam Raimi and directed by a German guy whose name I didn't write down. But it is a very silly movie, very over the top. It is similarly to Monkey Man, like a martial arts revenge movie, but it does not take itself too seriously. It also stars Bill Skarsgård. It's got Nosferatu as like the hero named Boy.
Yes, but is he nude in this one?
Nah. But it's without getting into spoilers, the fight choreography is great. The comedy is amazing. It's a tragedy that this bombed, and I just encourage anyone who listens to this show, seek this one out. You will not be disappointed. The only thing, like, if gore bothers you, just like Monkey Man, it might be too much for you, but it is also kind of on the same level as like Evil Dead 2 gore. Like, it's so over the top, it's hard to take seriously, and it's got a really cool twist ending. Great movie. 3 out of 4. Your turn.
Okay. My bag of tricks here, my popcorn bucket of tricks. Let's see. I'll take this one. Okay. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, we already talked about this one, Lisa Frankenstein. Okay, let me go again.
There we go.
Okay. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, this one should be interesting. Late Night with the Devil.
I'm surprised you saw this.
Okay.
I stuck with my guns about the AI art. I did not, see this, but I'm curious what you think. Go for it, T.
So I saw this because it was actually on AMC. I think it was on I think it was on IFC on Halloween night. They were actually showing it. So it was on for free, and because it was an IFC movie, actually, it was shown completely uncut. Except they did have commercials in it. So I caught it. I found out later. I caught it about 15 minutes into the movie. So I watched the whole thing, and then I went back to Hulu and watched the first 15 minutes. I thought it had so much promise, and much like with The Last Exorcist, I'm like, what the hell is this ending? It was stupid. It was over the top, and it was just very clearly because people think you need to have some mass death or something like that to really sell a horror film. And then there was it was bizarre. I did not like the ending. I thought there was so much promise. It was so good until the ending. And then of course there was people online that were saying, that were like in these horror groups that were saying, oh, it was really slow and boring until the ending. And I'm like the exact opposite. I think the ending kind of ruined it. But I really did. I mean, like I said, I did enjoy it up first. It was a very interesting premise. Kind of think sort of along the lines of like The Exorcist, as far as kind of the slow burn buildup, but it's obviously not as long. But I do think that the ending was it was awful. It was bad. And then when you think it's over, then there's like a second ending that's equally as like hard to follow. And then I actually had to go back and read online what people thought of it. I'm like, okay, I guess that sort of makes sense, but it's a lot. It was too much plot they tried to pack into the ending that I don't think there was enough breadcrumbs leading up there. Now it does have sort of an ironic ending, but I think the things that do it, I didn't like it. I thought the ending was awful. That being said, I'm going to give it like a 1.5 out of 4 pitchers of sweet tea. Because unfortunately, with the ending just being as big as it is, you really can't separate the rest of the movie from it. But yeah, so with that being the case,
stay mad, suckers.
Yeah, stay mad.
That's what you get for using AI art.
Right.
Stupid.
You're up.
All right. I doubt you've seen this one, but I'm very excited to talk about this. And, the allegations of me being a pervert probably aren't going to go away. Challengers!
Oh my god, okay. I was going to see that mostly because you said there was some hot man-on-man action, but I never got around to seeing it.
There's a little bit of So, there is a little bit of man-on-man interaction. One thing, T is always talking about, there needs to be more full frontal male nudity. This has been a great year for you because Challengers has a bit and Nosferatu has a bit.
Okay, wait, I really want to do a little gripe here. And I hope this works in Challengers, is this irritates me when people are like, we're putting more male full frontal nudity in, but then all these like male actors are using prosthetics. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, where were these prosthetics?
Well, Nosferatu,
Nosferatu is...
It gets a pass because, he's also like a vampire monster, so you kind of need to have a prosthetic for that.
All these other ones, they're using prosthetics and stuff, and like I would get it from like, a dignity or privacy standpoint, but you don't get to pat yourself on the back for now providing male nudity when you didn't offer women the same option to have prosthetic breasts or, prosthetic lower areas. And so
that is a great point.
So like,
although like so it's only like a couple of very average looking dudes in Challengers. Are they all prosthetic?
I'm assuming they're not. But usually when it's like the main actors and they do full frontal, it's like, but the worst part is it never looks real. It looks so fake too. So I'm just like,
this looks pretty. Again, it's just like a flash. It's in a locker room, and it's all a bunch of very frumpy, normal-looking dudes.
Yeah, so it's probably real. But that was just my going off on the industry for saying, "Oh, we're equalizing now." No, you're not.
Yep.
But go on.
No, you're right on the money. But this is the director of Call Me by Your Name.
Okay.
Bones and All. Like he's such an interesting director. He also did the Suspiria remake back in like 2017, 2018. And I think it's kind of funny. He either does like hot, steamy movies or he does horror movies. There's like no in between with him. And this is such an interesting. I love the sport. I love the so Challengers is about a 3-way relationship between two guys pining after the same girl. And tennis is like a perfect metaphor for their relationship because it's like she is the ball bouncing between the two of them, but she's not like an object. She's like the one choosing them.
Yeah.
And the dynamic is so toxic, but it's great. It literally, like, the setup for the movie is also like a metaphor because she's watching them play each other, and throughout their whole history, she wants to be with the winner. At any given point in the relationship, she wants to be with who is winning currently. And it's so, like, this is not a romantic movie. This is a sexy movie.
Yeah.
This is a very, hot movie.
It's a steamy, erotic movie.
Exactly.
It's
and
kind
this
of
is like
I feel like it's kind of what is that movie called? 50 Shades always tried to be but could never pull off.
This is exactly. And also the other thing, so like we had like kind of a mini topic earlier in the year about how Zoomers think there's too many sex scenes in movies.
Yeah.
No sex scene in this movie and it's still hot. Like that's another reason I would urge you to see this because it maintains itself being like a sexy movie, but there's no sex scenes. Like you do have two men making out with each other, and you have like it's you need to see it.
It's like oh god, what is that movie I always point to? Double Indemnity.
Yeah, no, that's a great example because that's another one where it's more about like the situation and the entendre and the like. Yeah, no, that's a perfect example. But like, and also funny anecdote. So one of the best soundtracks of the year, in my opinion, it's Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross from 9 Inch Nails. So kind of a weird choice. He's done a lot of work with like David Fincher and stuff like that. But it's really funny. I watched an interview with the two of them, and Trent Reznor was like talking about how he got a text from the director. He's like, "Trent, you need to score this movie. It's in like all caps sexy." And so like he read the script and he was into it and stuff. But it's like weird, like techno. It sounds like something you'd listen to at the gym while you're like, running. So it matches the whole sport and everything. It's just such a great like encapsulating. This is a really good tennis movie. Like if you're like a sports movie person and you really like tennis, I think it's so good as a tennis movie you can kind of excuse the sexiness and just enjoy it as a tennis movie.
Yeah.
If you're really into like this, you said it perfectly. This is if 50 Shades of Grey was like this, I would love 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
Like it's very classy while also being just dirty.
Very steamy.
It's so good. Like I don't really praise like sexy movies very often, but this is like my vibe. This is my kind of eroticism, and it's one of my favorite movies of the year. One of the best soundtracks of the year. 3.5 out of 4. Awesome. Loved it.
Oh my god, yes. Yeah. So I had a list of movies going that had a list on the side of it of ones I wanted to see. And I'd actually narrowed it down as we got closer to ones I wanted to make sure I saw, and Challengers was one of them. I just never got around to it.
Check it out when you can. It's so good. It's genuinely like one of my favorite movies of the year.
But Whiskey is so funny. He'll text me. He'll be like, "Yeah, you should see this one. There's some men on display in here."
Yep, I know what you like. I know what'll get your butt in the seat.
Okay, that being said, up next, let's see, what do we have in here? Okay, what is this? My downstairs neighbors probably be like, "Why do you keep dropping this bucket on the floor?" Okay, here we go. We already talked about this one, Dune Part 2, right?
All right.
We talked about that one, right? Okay, let me go.
We did.
I was like, I
gotta go.
Yeah, okay. All right. I need to stop hitting my microphone. This will be fun. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, The Last Showgirl.
Oh, I'm glad you saw this. This was one, it's funny. So, anyone who listens to the show knows I'm a bit of a Criterion Collection fanboy. I enjoy them quite a bit. So they do a thing on YouTube called Closet Picks, where they get like directors or actors of like people in like artsy movies to like come over, and they get to pick whatever they want out of their collection of movies. And they had Pamela Anderson, and I was like, why? Like, no offense to her, I was just like, what was she in recently that, like, why, like, you know what I mean? Like, they always pick people who are, like, in artsy movies, and I was like, what was she in recently? And then during Christmas dinner, I think it was my dad's girlfriend or something, someone mentioned that she was in this movie, and I was like, oh, that's why she was on the Criterion Collection thing. So I'm very happy you're talking about this, because I somehow just didn't hear about this movie at all. So go for it.
Okay, so maybe it's because we have different viewing habits on YouTube, but I kept getting this ad constantly before.
It's the algorithm, man. It knows what you like. It knows what I like. Like with me, it's going to show like Terrifier 3 ads on repeat, but for you, it'll probably show you stuff like this.
Oh God, you know how disturbing. I got a few Terrifier ads, and I'm just like, that movie just unsettled me, the premise of it so much. I was just like, I would leave the room when those came on. But Last Showgirl, basic premise, Pamela Anderson plays a showgirl who's been working at the same show for years and years and years and years, and the show's closing, and she kind of is like, what am I going to do with my life now? Oh my God, this movie is it's very sad. You really feel for Pamela Anderson's character, and in a way, I do think, and I think she talked about one of the reasons why she really took this role is because she really, really related to this character, and especially, the whole concept of society thinking you're expired, you're past your prime. And I think it's something she talked about. She's having experience with people thinking this sort of thing like this. I read something earlier that talked about when her agent first got the script for it, he kind of threw it away. But the people really, really wanted Pamela Anderson, so they somehow got in contact with her son, and her son got her the script. And I think in the interview she said her former agent. But she got the script, and she was blown away. She was going to play this role. She is phenomenal in this. Like, definitely she needs to be getting a Best Actress nomination for this. Oh my God.
Frankly, if the Criterion Collection is calling her over, she might get one.
Right.
Like, if they're taking notice of the performance, like, she probably will not get ignored.
She's phenomenal in this, and she really does prove that she is not past her prime, both as the character and as an actress herself. And I really do hope that this does kind of, jumpstart maybe a renaissance for her. And renaissance for her in, like, as a serious actress, not, necessarily as, kind of what she was before. She kind of just show up and just be, oh, yeah, I'm Pamela Anderson, and kind of playing to this ditzy sort of stereotype, because that is not her. And, oh my God.
I always loved that she allowed herself to get kidnapped on Borat. I loved that she was like in on the joke, and she did it and everything. That always made me like her a little bit. Like, oh, that's cool that she was like fine with that.
I loved her. I first my first time seeing her in anything was on The Nanny. She played essentially the person who essentially kicked off the entire show. She stole Fran's fiance from her. I mean, that's kind of a sex way to look at it. He dumped Fran for her. And later on the show, like she plays the stereotypical what you expect, what you would think Pamela Anderson's real life. And I do believe her and Fran Drescher were friends. So I do think it was kind of more just like a kind of like satire of what people thought of her. And she showed up, she showed up in like 2 or 3 appearances on the show, but she is phenomenal in this performance. I will definitely give this a 3 out of 4 stars. I really just do also admire not only the character, but because she talked about in interviews about how this is kind of a parallel and stuff she experienced in real life, you really do have to admire Pamela Anderson even more. And somebody said in an article too, and I wish I had written it down for this, and I didn't, they talked about how this was a good kind of clap back from Pamela Anderson after the travesty that was that Hulu show, Tommy and Pam, or whatever it was, that she was neither consulted with or asked about. Which, I mean, I know technically as a famous person, you don't have that same right. But when you're going to make sort of a sort of expose-y sort of show about someone, at least reach out, you know? So they did say that...
I will say I saw a few episodes of the show and, you know, still shitty that they didn't do that. But I will say that Tommy was the one that they were kind of shitting on in the show. They were actually pretty, like, on her side in the show. Like, they do the whole thing where she's, like, talking about how her privacy was violated by the guy stealing the sex tape and stuff. So even though they didn't ask for her permission, I will say the show does not go out of its way to make a fool out of her. And if anything, it's pretty sympathetic to her. So again, but this is just for me having watched like 3 episodes of the show, but it was not like making her into a joke or anything like that, which is nice.
But I did like that they said that. It's nice topic first. Yes, I do recommend Whiskey. You get a chance, definitely get to see this. Even if the story doesn't run with you, Pamela Anderson gives a stellar performance.
No, it sounds kind of like it would be something I'd be into. It's weird that I did not hear anything about it. Obviously, again, it's like algorithms. They know I like artsy movies, horror movies, or what, the same way, you know, because frankly I'm not really into Terrifier, but it knows I like horror movies, so it's Terrifier, well, you know, same deal.
Also, and I'm mad I didn't write this article down. The article also pointed out this is like one of the first times that really the showgirl is humanized and is her own character, not simply there for the pleasure of men. They talked about, unlike in movies like Showgirl, and there was some other ones that was called where you know,
mean Showgirls?
Yeah, Showgirls.
Where they talk about eating dog food because they like how it tastes.
Yeah.
You saying that's not humanizing?
No, it's not. So, but
no.
yeah. So
no, I got you.
Yeah, definitely if you get a chance, go see this movie. On to you next. By the way, Pam, we love you and we support you, and I've never not loved you. You're amazing. I'm sorry. Oh my God, I just read some of these interviews and oh my God, I'm like, poor Pamela. I did find, though, really quick, just backpedaling to something that we saw, that we just talked about, Nosferatu. Somebody posted on a Facebook page, they were like, saw Nosferatu, wasn't impressed, basically was just a ripoff of Dracula. And then people are just,
as I said,
are just dogpiling on this person, and they're just like, tell me you don't know the history of the movie without not knowing the history of the movie.
I'm so glad, because he's not the only one. A bunch of people, like, it's funny. Again, Dracula's Coke, Nosferatu's Pepsi. Like, they're the same thing, but kind of not the same thing at the same time. That's hilarious. Oh my God. But hey, speaking of horror movies, I've got The First Omen next, which I'm sure you didn't watch.
Wait, I'm sorry. I found that thing, and they called it Temu Dracula. Oh my God. This person is nuts, but they're just being dogpiled on in the comments. But I found that I was looking for something about Nosferatu to bring up, and I found that. I'm like, I need to mention this. This is so embarrassing.
That's so funny. That's so funny. But The First Omen, I mentioned, so this is another example of a female-directed movie. And I thought it was really funny. Something Disney's been doing that I kind of think is awesome and hilarious is that they're just putting Fox movies on Disney Plus.
Oh God!
Like it's
yes.
So the first Omen, it's like this R-rated body horror demonic possession movie, and it's on Disney Plus, like right next to all the. I thought that was great, but I watched it on streaming. I frankly wrote this off when I saw the trailers for it months and months ago. I was like, oh, this is probably, trying to be like The Nun or something. But since it was on Disney Plus and Hulu, if I wanted to see it on Hulu, I was just like, well, what the heck? I at this point, I was still getting to 20 movies. So I'm like, I might as well see it. If it sucks, I get to roast it on the show. If it's good, I can, really surprisingly good, actually. I know you don't particularly like The Omen. I really like it. I don't think you need to care about The Omen to like this movie.
Okay.
It's sort of, without getting into too deep into the plot, it is more of a body horror movie, and it's also very, very clearly about a woman's right to choose to have an abortion.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, in a sentence, without getting too crazy with it, it's about a nun who gets impregnated by the devil. And that is all I will say about the plot, but it is actually pretty scary. There's some pretty good, disturbing imagery, and I was pleasantly surprised by this one.
Wait,
wasn't
that the plot of another horror movie this year, called Immaculate or something?
It might have been, but this, I haven't seen Immaculate, but this was really good.
I tried to get my grandma to see it.
I think the fact that it was directed by a woman also helped it a lot because of the story that it's telling. This is one I'd actually recommend to you, even though I know you're not super into the original Omen movie. The only thing that is a minor gripe to me is how it changes a bit of the lore. Because if anyone's seen the original Omen, it's, Damien's mother was not a human, which is something that I thought was really disturbing about the original. But it's really good. And I'll leave it at that. I give it a 3 out of 4. Definitely check it out if you're into horror, or if you just want to support a female-helmed film about autonomy with your own body. Your turn, T.
All right. Okay. Oh, cool. It's starting to sound a little less thing in here. Okay, here we go. Got another one. Let's go ahead and pop it.
Pop it like it's hot.
Right. Okay. This one, you probably didn't even know this even came out. But this was a disappointment. The American Society of Magical Negroes.
Oh, I did see numerous trailers for this, and
it was so promising, the trailers. I thought the trailers were so promising as a satire of society.
I liked the idea. So, it's true. It's also making fun of, a type of character archetype in some movies where there's the...
They're literally only there to help the white protagonist.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta say, I'm not a fan of the title. I know that is the term and stuff. I don't know. This was one of those where when I saw the trailer, it felt very politically heavy-handed, to the point where I'm like, this is a good premise for a movie, and I feel like you're just gonna, scare people off because everyone's gonna think that they're gonna be lectured at.
Yeah.
So, the fact that it was disappointing, I'm very curious to hear what you had to say, because I just didn't really have an interest in seeing this, but right off the bat with the trailer, I was just like, I feel like this is going to be you wagging your finger at me and telling me what a bad person I am for something, so.
Well, I didn't get that thing. I thought it was going to be hilarious because it was kind of I thought it was going to I went into it kind of thinking it was going to be a satire of that trope. And, and it's okay, this is the job they perform in society, but they are real people, outside of this, that have their own things going on. And I feel like they kind of just ended up only being the trope of the person that's there to help the white person. And I was just like, oh, I kind of...
So they never even, got... So they never, broke free of their chains of being that character?
It's been a quick...
It's been that moment of getting the girl?
It's been a moment I saw it, and I was like, I don't remember really there being... They might have, but it was it was so just uninspired. Like, you know,
I gotcha. It was like they were phoning it in.
Yes, it felt very phoned in. I feel like there was a lot they could do with this, because I do think humor and stuff is a great way to tackle serious and uncomfortable topics like this. And I was just so disappointed, because it had such a great, because like I said, it had such a great potential. It had a great premise. Like I said, I literally, like, the premise that I made in my head going to see this was, okay, it's like this society of people, and they figured out like what their day job is to be this, you know, so that they can survive as a population. And then it seemed like, but there wasn't really much to them outside of that. And I was just so disappointed, because like I went in kind of ready for like the scathing criticism of the, you know, the classic, you know, storytelling tropes in movies that involve white characters, and especially anytime there was a minority character present. And it was there a little bit, but it wasn't, it like we said, there wasn't enough teeth to this.
I think the other reason I decided not to see it is, like, now that I'm thinking more about the trailer, I think kind of the deciding factor too, like, it is a good premise, but then it just sort of, again, just going off of the trailer, it just sort of turned into, oh, I want to get with the girl, but she's meant for the white guy. And I was like, oh, it just turns into a rom-com then.
Well,
it's
see, I didn't mind that.
Getting the job, or like, no, and I know you wouldn't mind that because that's like your favorite genre. But like, I think that's another reason why I didn't get it, because I was like, I mean, this could be about him like running for office or getting the job or whatever, but no, it's like, oh, okay, he wants to get with the girl.
But see, like,
again, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't appeal to me. I think that's another reason why I skipped this one.
And I actually kind of argue that in a movie like this, a sort of smaller win, like getting the girl instead of like running for office or something, is more powerful, because it shows, you know, minority joy. In this particular place, black joy in everyday society. But like I said, it's like we had with the, you know, with their society, and I was just like, okay. But it was just like, I wanted it to be more biting. There'd be more teeth to this, you know, not like, you know, you said not being lectured at, but there's clever ways with humor to make something, you know, really thought-provoking, but still kind of have that funny satire that I saw in the trailer, that kind of parody of this idea, and it just wasn't there. But anyway, so 1.5 out of 4 pitchers of sweet tea. Actually, I'm gonna say one pitcher out of sweet tea. Out of 4 pitchers of sweet tea. You were up.
All right, so I haven't had a chance to be mean as much in this, but let me assure you, audience, that I will go out of my way to see some crap, because, as I said, I'm trying to be nice and diverse with these episodes at the end or beginning of the year, trying to see as many genres and as much quality or lack thereof. And I'm sure, going from how generous I've been so far, you'd think, oh, he liked everything he saw. Not the case. This next one, I'm a be real mean in a second, but I think this is a good opportunity to interject and just say, like, I think this is the best year for movies since 2019. There's been so many, like, great, and just in every genre too. Hollywood blockbuster, horror, romance, action. Like, this has been such a great year that it's probably the nicest either of us have been in any of these episodes. But that ends with my next one, Rebel Moon Part 2: The Scar Giver.
Oh my god! What this is so hilarious.
God.
I just read an article about how. Okay, go on, but I will tell you what I read an article about. Go on.
So first off, you did not see this, right?
I did not, but I read an article. But it was just so funny that I read something about it last night.
So last year I was much more generous with my take on the first installment of this stupid Star Wars knockoff. I will say, from everything I've heard about Zack Snyder, he sounds like he's a very nice guy. And I don't hate every movie he's made. I think his early career is solid, not really thought-provoking or, you know, moving the industry. You could make an argument for 300, kind of paving the way for movies that could be completely made on green screen. That being said, the man is a cinematographer first and a storyteller dead last. He knows how to make something look really pretty, but all of his movies are like the equivalent of a himbo or a bimbo. All looks, no depth or personality. And my God, I would go back and revert my 2 out of 4 to a 1 out of 4 for the first installment. The Scargiver has the interesting idea of making an entire movie a battle.
Okay.
And that is it. It is so devoid of substance or character development or anything. It is boring as all hell. And something I said last year when I gave his first, what is it? Fucking Rebel Moon Part 1, I gave it a 2 out of 4. I said I was interested in seeing where he took it because it was not necessarily original, but it was an interesting concept and he had some cool visuals to things. These movies are apparently doing well on Netflix. The third one is coming out next year. He's like releasing extended cuts of the other 2 on Netflix. So his audience is there. He has his devoted fan base. They released the Snyder cut of the Justice League. That being said, holy hell, this is a bad movie. And I take back every nice thing I said about the first one. This is an idiot Star Wars spinoff trying to be R-rated and edgy for the sake of his aesthetics that he goes for.
Right.
All due respect, I don't think he's a bad person, but my God, all I can say is that I'm happy he might not have any pretensions of being an artist. 1 out of 4. Bad movie. Awful movie.
Okay. What's interesting?
I will probably see the third installment just to see how this train wreck ends, but I'm sure it will probably be unoriginal, uninspired, and boring on top of everything else.
Okay. So what's funny about this, I told you how earlier this had been included on some ranker lists with Lisa Frankenstein being like one of the worst of the year. Well, they'd also mentioned, one of the worst ones of the year was a Star Wars ripoff. And I was like, what? So I looked through the list, and I'm like, okay, it must be this one, Rebel Moon. And I read, and I was like, oh my God, nobody is liking this at all. I guess he wanted this to be like a whole franchise with world building and everything.
Well, see,
it was supposed to be like his Star Wars. And
so he's been wanting, he's been wanting to make this for decades. He wrote this ages ago, and it's just because, Netflix, they have all these deals with famous directors. Like, we're always talking about the artsy, Scorsese and whatever, but, they're doing everybody. They got Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. They got, they want every director to have their own Netflix movies. And this is his. Like, as I said, he's been wanting to make this for a really long time. Good for him. Here's the thing, though. Despite what everyone is saying, it's the same with the whole Justice League thing. He has a fan base. These movies are making money. That's what's crazy to me. A lot of people like these movies. I'm going to shit on it, but
what's interesting,
and everyone else is as well.
Because I found out about this. I read some articles. I read the Wikipedia page. Even this series is testing the patience of the diehard Snyder people, because they said, the first one did really well on Netflix, but then they also said that this one only got a fraction of the viewership of the first one. So it's like everybody learned their lesson in the first one.
Well, so here's the thing, though, T, is that, as I said, they released extended versions of both of these movies on Netflix, and they're going forward with the third one. I don't think they would do that if it wasn't getting views. You know what I mean? And I don't think, these cost a lot to make, but they're definitely a fraction of, an Avengers movie or something like that. It's definitely not. So it's one of those mind-boggling things. But in fact, his zombie movie, City of the Dead from a few years ago, did gangbusters. A bunch of people saw it. So again, it's kind of one of those things. You and I and every film critic can talk ad nauseum about how crappy he is as a director, and it doesn't really matter.
Well, no,
fans will go see it anyway.
Well, no, it's like I said, it still did good for Netflix, but they did say though that it was a significant drop in viewership from the first one to the second one. And originally he said he wanted this whole thing to be like a franchise or whatever. Well, I know you said that's not true, but based on what I read in this article, and so he didn't know how many there were going to be. I think they finally said there's going to be 6 total.
Okay, damn. I thought he was just doing a trilogy.
It's basically a trilogy with each movie divided into 2 parts. Which I think that's a little egregious, but okay.
That's insane. And but yeah, let's move on.
Let's move on
because we can exactly. We've talked enough about Rebel Moon Part 2.
I want to say, if you ever really feel bad about your creative abilities, just think they gave Zack Snyder money to make crap. Imagine what they can do for you.
But I will say one of our segment or one of our pairings for next year is going to be good movies by bad directors, and you may be surprised who I choose for my pick.
Oh my god!
But what's your next one?
It's actually Rebel Moon Part 1. No, here we go. We got our little orb. We're gonna pop it open. Okay, what do we have on the post-it? Beetlejuice.
Ooh, drink up, bitch.
Okay, I have also started eating ginger cookies in this because I am starting to feel the effects of it. Because I am.
But that's what makes these episodes so fun.
Okay, so Beetlejuice. I actually saw this in LA when I told you I visited LA recently again, and I was staying with a friend and we watched it there. I'm gonna be a little controversial here. I actually like this better than the OG. Because I feel like
that is controversial.
Like, it's like the OG was not, and I'm not saying the OG was bad, but I like this one better just because I like the world building more. I like that we have more Beetlejuice in it. And we get a little bit of Beetlejuice's backstory. We actually find something in the world that maybe even Beetlejuice himself can't handle. But I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was fun. It was good enjoyment. I thought it was it was a fitting sequel. I liked it. It was funny. It was a good horror comedy. What did you think?
I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I think I kind of just slightly disagree with you on some things. I think it needed to be focused. I think some stuff could have been completely cut out of it because I agree. So the backstory you're referring to was one of the funniest moments in the whole movie where you see how he died. His wife could have been cut out of the whole movie, or his ex-wife, you know what I mean? Like that, she was pointless. She would show up and do something and you could cut her completely out of the movie and it wouldn't make a difference. I do like seeing where Lydia and her family are years later. I love that she's like a TV psychic. That's so fitting for what she would be doing.
I love it. I thought that was hilarious.
Without going into spoilers, there is a plot line with her daughter that should have been the main story. I think they needed to expand on that, focus on that, and then it could have been about Lydia calling Beetlejuice to help with that. Because essentially what the first movie was, this ghost couple that, desperately wants these people to leave, and they make the mistake of calling Beetlejuice. I think you could have kind of mirrored that plot line, but instead be it about, Lydia trying to, help. She needs help with her daughter. I feel one thing that I will say, I am very impressed that the movie does not just ape off of nostalgia for the first movie.
Yes.
Massive points for that. There's a couple of moments that are little nods to the first movie, but it's not just completely ripping it off. And the movie's funny. That's amazing. I kind of went into this being like, oh man, it might suck. It might not be very good. Tim Burton's been working on this for a while. But no, it stuck the landing in general. I would not say it is better than the first movie. I think it could have been as good as the first movie if they had focused on the story a little bit better and like maybe not even necessarily cut stuff down, but just, as I said, have kind of less of an aimless feel. There's a lot of moments where it just sort of feels like, oh, now we're in this scene where Beetlejuice is doing this thing or whatever. I also like how creative they were with writing out the actor from the first movie who was a pedophile. I thought that was very mean-spirited in a great way. And yeah, overall, I thought it was good. I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's better than the first movie, but I'm giving it a 2.5.
I'm going to give it a 3 out of 4. I feel like if I could sum up your review, to quote the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, see, you can tell the whiskey's affecting me. I'm trying to quote stuff now. To quote the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, too many plot lines and it feels unfocused.
There you go.
I mean, I can agree with that. I do kind of think I see what you're saying about the wife. I did enjoy getting that backstory. I do see, though,
I don't dislike the wife. I just think they did nothing with her.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I like the idea of, like, this ghost from his past coming back. It's just she had no bearing on the plot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I can see that. And so I do kind of agree with you on that. But I don't know, something about it was just, it was more fun to me. I like that there was more, like, I always kind of thought it was weird that how little Beetlejuice was in the movie Beetlejuice. And I really like there was more of this. I liked more of going into the underworld more. There was just stuff I liked, but I'm going to give it a 3 out of 4. I really did enjoy this. And I'm not a huge fan of, oh my God, the girl from Wednesday. What's her name? Jenny Ortega.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of hers. I thought she was good in this. So there's that, you know, and then there's some, you know, some real world reveals too. I liked it. I thought it was fun. I'm going to go ahead and stick with a 3 out of 4. Was that me or was that you? That was me. Okay, it's your turn.
Alrighty. So, oh yeah, with that. Yes. So, I doubt you've seen this. Did you see Hitman?
No, that was the other Glenn Powell movie. No, I did not see him.
It was the other Glenn Powell movie. So, that is, as I said, he's having a really good year. Hitman is definitely in your wheelhouse. I recommend you to see it for sure. It is based on a true story. It is about a man lying to get a girl. And that is all I will reveal about the plot because it is very wacky. It's one of those true stories that's hard to believe. And something that was pleasantly surprising is that Richard Linklater directed it.
Oh, okay.
So it's a Netflix movie. And yeah, it's one of his less weird experimental films. And that's really all I can say about it. The acting is amazing. Glenn Powell was really good in the lead, and so is his co-star, and it's just a funny little story. So that's all I really can say without getting into spoilers or anything like that. But 3 out of 4, really solid movie.
Well, okay. There was that joke that they cut from the Golden Globes thing. Did you read about it? That Nikki Glaser is supposed to do about that movie? Did you hear about that?
Oh, what was her? What? No, I didn't. What was the joke?
She was basically was like, Glenn Powell, did you realize that you would turn out to only be the second hottest hitman this year?
Yikes!
The other one referring to obviously.
I know who she's referring to, but Jesus.
She decided
no idea why they cut that joke. Also debatable. I know everyone's thirsting after Luigi, but I don't know, man. Glenn Powell's a handsome dude.
I will say Glenn Powell's. Oh my God, yeah. I'll tell you more about that off camera. But okay, off camera, off microphone. See, you know what? Whiskey. Okay. Anyway, okay, here we go. Another one. Let me pop it open. Did I put this one in here twice? Hang on. Or did I put it back? Hold on. Maybe I put it back in the basket and didn't realize it. Hang on. Okay. Let me try again. I have to count these Post-it notes because there should be 21 here. Okay. Did you see this one? Red One.
Red One. No, I did not, but I know it sounded like you liked it. I know the internet was also bullying this movie relentlessly when it came out and it bombed.
I don't know why they hated it so much. And maybe it was because, I don't know, maybe they went into the movie taking it seriously. But when you watch this movie from the very first scene, it is quite obvious that this movie is essentially a parody of like action films like Die Hard and stuff like this. It is so obvious that's what they're going for. I thought it was very smartly done. And it was a lovely Christmas. I mean, I went to see this just for the obvious Lady Gaga nostalgia. If you know, you know. Obviously, Whiskey does not know. But but no, I thought it was good. And I'm not a big rock fan either. Like, I don't go and see, like, there's people who go and see all the rock movies. Like, you know, he's considered, you know, like the everyman actor. That seems to draw kind of the everyman audience. I'm usually not excited about his sort of stuff. He seems to play a lot of the same person and everything. But I thought this was a really good, like, action-y sort of Christmas family movie. You know, like I said, it's like if you watch it, there's so many, like, I feel like callbacks to, like, action movies, like, that are like classic scenes from, like, famous action movies, and it's like, it's a parody of them, and it's so good and it's so fun. Is it the best movie ever? No, but it was not like, people were acting like this was like the scourge of the earth when it came out, and I don't understand why. They definitely, though, thought this was going to do better than it did, because, like, for example, my theater was, they had Red One branded blankets and popcorn buckets you could get. Which obviously didn't sell. But yeah, no, it was solid. It was good. I liked it. I thought it was a nice twist on the action movie thing, especially with the whole debate over whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Basically, the way I describe this is, if you could imagine, essentially the basic plot is, you know, Santa Claus is a real being, and he is abducted by other metaphysical beings in the universe, and they have like a whole like, imagine like a SEAL Team 6 team, you know, in the North Pole that tracks him down and goes after him, and this one everyman guy gets involved somehow. I forget how he gets involved, but that's basically what it is. It's like, it sounds ridiculous to think, but like I said, if you view this, which I think it's supposed to be, and I think it was marketed wrong, as a parody of the action movies, it's really good. It's really fun. It's enjoyable. I don't know what else to say about it, but I do not think it observed the relentless bullying it got. It was definitely a fun movie, and I could definitely see me watching this again at Christmas. Like, it was fun.
Since it's an MGM movie, therefore it will be on Amazon. Yeah. I'll probably check it out since you like it so much. I think, so I didn't see it, so I can't bully it because I have nothing to bully. But just based off of the trailer, and I think what turned people like me off of it, it felt like they were trying to market it to the Marvel crowd. And a lot of the trailer just had that really lazy joke writing. Like, the one that made me cringe was when Chris Evans is like sitting at the table, like they're interrogating him, and The Rock comes in, he's like, "Oh, I know I'm not gonna like you." It's like, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of just lazy humor where it's like, well, it's like tongue-in-cheek, but it's also not clever, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's like the sort of stuff that kind of turned me off when I saw the trailer.
But like, when I was watching this, I viewed Dwayne the Jock Robinson's character as sort of an amalgamation of all, you know, the hardened, tough guys that we always see that lead these action films, like, you know,
yeah.
But, and if you view it from that, the cringy stuff, it goes from being cringy to funny. And I really do think, just based on how the whole film is structured, that's how we were supposed to view it. And I do think it was just marketed wrong. That's just me. Maybe I'm delusional and I'm thinking this is deeper than it really is. You'll probably watch this and be like, what the hell are you talking about? But that's how
you are also Santa's #1 fanboy.
Yes, I also am Santa's #1 fanboy. That being said, you are up.
Would you give it, though? Is it a 3 out of 4?
I would give it a 2.8 out of 4, because I do think there are some problems with it that can be overlooked. Like, I do think, like I said, the most part I viewed this as a satire and a parody. There are some stuff that I still think was kind of, like you said, not written super well. But yeah, like I said, overall, it's very enjoyable, and I don't understand why I didn't expect it to be a blockbuster, but there was nothing that I saw that I'm like, oh yeah, this obviously deserved a bomb, you know?
I gotcha. There's a lot of that going around this year. But it's funny that you say that. So the next movie, it's kind of going off of what you said. So it is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter's, Ishana Shyamalan. It's her directorial debut, The Watchers.
Oh, okay.
So I thought the trailer for this was intriguing, and the fact that she was directing, I was like, hey, might as well give this a shot. Frankly, it looked better than Trap, his movie that came out this year. So I went to see it. And this movie got shit on by critics. Like, everyone thought this was awful.
And
it was all like... So I'll get to that. So I find that kind of weird just right off the bat, because this is based on a novel. So, like, all the stuff I was seeing was, like, critiquing the story, and it's like she had no control over the story.
Well, how closely,
it's based on a book.
How closely did she follow the novel? That was the question.
That's the thing. I don't know, because I haven't read the novel, but it clearly is like, here's the thing. So, like, there's levels of horror. You and I have talked about this, especially like in our Krampus review. Like, I think, or our Poltergeist review. There's like horror movies for certain like age demographics, right? And this is a PG-13 horror movie based on a novel, and it's neat, right? Like, so the setup is that this girl is driving through the woods in Ireland, her car breaks down, and she leaves and like gets lost, and there's monsters in the woods, and she runs and finds this building that has a bunch of different people in, and they let her in. And every night these monsters come, and there's a, two-way mirror or whatever, the one-way mirror, so like they can't see what's outside. It's just a mirror, but to all the things outside, it's like a pane of glass. And so these monsters like to watch these people, right?
Right.
That's the setup. I'm not spoiling anything. This is like the first 20 minutes of the movie. And that's what was in the trailer as well. So that is really surreal and strange, and it makes you wonder, like, what are these monsters and stuff? And so I will say I could see where the story takes things getting kind of disappointing for some people.
Okay.
What I like about where it goes is that it takes full advantage of the fact that it's set in Ireland.
Ooh, okay.
Hint, hint. And I also like that there is a second twist at the very, very end of the movie that I did not see coming. What I could see some people saying, maybe they don't think it's scary. Maybe they think that it's a little too far-fetched, all of these things. Maybe they think the monster is stupid. Once again, these are not things that if it's in the book that she has any control over. Specifically with the direction, I think she did a really good job. I think that there is some really good tense scenes. I think that the performances are really good. That, by the way, it's what's her name? It's the girl from War of the Worlds, and man, you know who I'm talking about, right?
I'm Googling it right now.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Oh, Dakota Fanning.
Dakota Fanning. There we go. So it's Dakota Fanning doing a solid performance, as well as like a couple of other actors and stuff. I thought it was fun. I don't think it is a masterwork. I don't think, and also that's kind of a thing that her dad was famous for, was like writing his own movies. Like, he didn't, base any of them off of anything. So she doesn't have that going for her. But just as like a film, I think she did a fine job. I honestly don't see where all the hate's coming from, especially when, again, if it's based on a book, it's not like she made any of this up. Right. She's just going off of, and she might not have even been the one to adapt the script. Right. I don't think she was. At least I didn't. Oh, no. She did. Okay, she did adapt the screenplay. Okay, well, so who knows? Maybe that's something that people take issue with. But I give it a 2 out of 4. I thought it was a fine little like young adult horror movie.
And I also think the other problem with, not the problem, but I guess the reason why people also were kind of just like, about it is because also not only did she, if I remember correctly, not only was this her directorial debut, but wasn't she also in Trap, M. Night Shyamalan's last movie? No.
Different daughter.
Oh, different
daughter.
So okay.
His other daughter, that's a whole other thing. And, neither of us, I haven't seen Trap, so I can't review it, but...
Okay. I read...
So his other daughter wants to be like a musician. So in that movie, there's like this Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande pop star called Lady Raven, and his other daughter plays Lady Raven, and the music is her music. So it's sort of like him shamelessly, like, you know, oh, here's my daughter, like, she's playing a pop star, isn't her music really good? Well, which, frankly, I kind of think is sort of adorable. Like, I think that's very nice of him to do.
But, like, not...
And from what I understand, her music is fine.
Yeah.
It's only just, like... It's kind of like far-fetched that she would be like the biggest pop star in the world, right, like with the music but yeah, no, so this is a different daughter. This is the older daughter, and she is more interested in filmmaking. His other daughter has like a music career. That's what she cares about. Like her being in Trap was like his way, I guess, of kind of trying to promote her music career.
Right. Well, my only issue with that is if she was just being the musician. Okay, so I did read the plot synopsis, and I was very disappointed in the twist. I thought the ones people guessed online were better. But...
Oh, you mean for the watchers?
Not for watchers, for
Trapped.
And that's the only thing
we're not talking about Trapped.
I know. This is the only thing I'm going to say. I'm going to say I would totally be okay with that if, you know, she was just kind of the pop star in the background sort of thing. She plays a bigger role than that.
She does. I know that she... Again, we didn't see Trap.
I know, but it's M. Night Shyamalan, and so as you know, we obviously have to tell everyone it's garbage. I'm just kidding.
It's only garbage half of the time. Okay, half of the time it's good, and then the other half it's garbage.
I think M. Night Shyamalan isn't he kind of like the Nickelback of like the movie world?
Kind of is. That's actually a really apt description, because it's like everyone thinks Nickelback always sucks, and they don't. They have some good music. It's just everyone thinks of their worst music whenever they think of Nickelback.
Right.
It's the same thing with M. Night Shyamalan. No one remembers The Sixth Sense because everyone's thinking about his Last Airbender movie. Oh my god,
that was what I was going to say too. I was thinking of Last Airbender. And then of course, you know, there's the hardcore fan people. If you can't love him at his Airbender, you don't deserve to love him at, you know, The Sixth Sense.
What's your next movie?
Okay. Okay, here we go. We're down to the final 4 in the basket. Which I'm gonna have to count these.
We're down to my final 10.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Oh, this one is totally for you. Oh man, I dropped this. Okay.
I'm excited.
Holiday Touchdown: A Chief's Love Story.
I knew you just watched a bunch of Christmas movies.
Oh my god, this was so... This was funny because, you know, obviously this came about because they're piggybacking off of the whole Taylor Travis thing. Has nothing to do with them. Basically, it's like somebody was like, let's make a Hallmark romantic movie and then have the Chiefs be the background. So, like, we have people making, like we have I think some of the players make appearances. I know Coach Andy Reid makes an appearance in this movie. I think it's Andy Reid. Andy Reid's the coach, right? I think he is. The coach of the team makes an appearance. The Kelsey's mom makes an appearance. And, you know, obviously they're not seasoned actors, so they're always hilarious when they show on. It was much better, though, than Christmas in the Spotlight. It's just nothing. It's not even based on their love story. It's kind of just a sort of just... Anyway, it's cute, it's adorable, you know, but it's a Hallmark movie. I happen to like Hallmark movies, not all of them. Some of them I think are like better than others. There's bad Hallmark movies, and it's even bad even by Hallmark standards. So keeping in mind this is a Hallmark movie, I'm going to give this a 2.5 out of 4. I totally think this would have been Whiskey's movie of the year if he had seen it. I get that feeling.
Oh, totally.
But yeah, it's just a cute movie. It's definitely shameless promotion and riding the Chiefs hype from Swifties and their 2 Super Bowl wins and all that fun stuff. But it was cute. It was adorable. I liked it. It was, like I said, it was much better than Christmas in the Spotlight. But yeah, I do think you should definitely watch that. I'm just saying.
The title's a little bit complicated as far as that goes. What'd you give it, though?
I gave it a 2.5 out of 4. Like, it was fine. It wasn't anything spectacular, but, like, it was a better Hallmark movie than... He's like, I know there are bad... Like I told you, there's bad Hallmark movies that are bad even by Hallmark standards. And this was not one of those, so...
All right. I'm going to be upset if we're not drinking on this one. Inside Out 2.
Oh my god, yes!
Okay, drinking up.
Okay, hang on. Let me pour myself another shot. Yes. Oh my god, Inside Out 2.
T's either gonna die from that cough or T's gonna die from alcohol poisoning.
One of those two will happen.
Hopefully not the cough. If you're dying having fun. All right, so I'm so happy you did actually see this one. What did you think, T?
I love this one. I actually kind of liked it better than the first one, and maybe it's because
Same.
I feel like there was a lot more with dealing with more mature emotions, because there's an introduction of new emotions, because I think as we learn in the trailer, Riley's going through puberty, so there's a whole influx of new emotions. And with it being ones that adults can relate to even more, I thought really added some depth. And what I really liked about it is that, oh my god, I lost my train of thought. Hang on.
I'll hop in. I agree. I also like how the emotions are kind of mutations of the already existing emotions. Anxiety is a spin-off of fear. Embarrassment is a spin-off of sadness. Ennui is kind of a spin-off of anger, and envy is a spin-off of disgust. And I also, even though it's sort of a joke edition, but I feel like nostalgia is supposed to be a spin-off of joy, which makes sense because when you're nostalgic about something, you're usually having happy memories about it. But completely agree. I also will shout out, this is another movie that was directed by a woman, so we might have the first best animated feature directed by a woman, unless I'm forgetting something. But it's really good. I liked the first Inside Out, but I agree with you. I think this one's a little bit more nuanced in the story that it's telling. I called it way back when Inside Out 1 came out. I was like, the one where she goes through puberty is going to be awesome. And that's essentially what this is. Also, Anxiety. Whoever designed Anxiety, like whoever drew her up, deserves an award because she was so funny. Again, going back to what I'm saying about this was a really good year for villains. I wouldn't exactly call Anxiety a full-on villain because it's more she's, or she means well. But she is a really good antagonist, and she is such a funny character. Just her face makes me laugh if someone just puts Anxiety's face in anyway. But yeah, no, I loved this. I usually root against Disney winning the Oscar every year, and that's probably not going to change because I do have another film I'm going to be talking about in a bit. But if this wins, it deserves it, I think. And it's, round of applause. It also has dethroned Frozen 2 as the highest grossing animated film of all time.
Thank God.
It's just a absolute, It's a great film. I'm really happy.
It's again
it's
because
a juggernaut.
It has, like you said, it has more nuance when it's discussing emotions than the first one does, and it makes sense in this context as why it would grow. But even as I was reading online, there's people who are our ages, people who are older, who are loving the portrayal of certain emotions that they still struggle with today, and they were like, "Thank you," because this puts a visual to what I'm feeling. I can understand better my emotions, just and it's almost doing a public service. So love that.
Yeah, so it's got a 3.5 from me. What about you?
I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 4 because I really enjoyed it.
Only a 3. My goodness, I almost gave it a perfect.
Oh my god.
So it's your turn.
All right, let's see. Okay, let's see. I have the last 3. One of these will be Inside Out 2. I know that, so I really only have 2 left. Okay, all right. You think you just mentioned this one. Wild Robot.
Yes! Drink!
I will... Oh, yeah. Let me drink.
I also think I know what your last one's going to be.
Okay, I'm trying to think if I remember what it is, too. Oh, actually, I have my list right here. Okay.
Well,
anyway, so... Oh, my Wild Robot. If I could not tell you the amount of sobbing I did in the theater. I was like
this movie.
When I cry, I get snotty with like, so I like temporarily lost the ability to breathe out of my nose for like I think the second half of the movie. Oh my god. Oh, the emotions, the empathy, the loving, the familyness, oh my god, I cried so much during this. It was so good.
This is the best DreamWorks movie in a long time. Like they've got classics like Shrek, How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda. Like this is so good. And it's funny that you picked this out of your bag of tricks, because this is the film I will be rooting for Best Animated Feature. It's so emotional. It is such a good movie about motherhood, which is not something you would expect with a film called The Wild Robot.
Right.
But it is so beautiful. It's like genuinely instant classic. And I was blown away at the end credits just seeing who was in this. I immediately recognized Matt Berry, one of my favorite comedic actors. He's in What We Do in the Shadows. He's in Toast of London. Like, he's kind of blown up over the last couple of years, but he was the Beaver, and he was awesome. Lupita Nyong'o is the robot, and that woman, I swear, I was saying this years ago, I'm so glad she's doing more voice acting, because she is a chameleon.
Oh my god, the way that she was able to do a robotic voice and still have so much emotion in it.
She's insane, dude. She was also in Star Wars as man, I'm blanking on her. She was in Star Wars. The way that she kind of contorted her voice in Us, the Jordan Peele movie, like she could be one of the best voice actresses ever.
Oh yeah.
And the fact I didn't recognize her until I saw her name in the credits blew me away. Also, big shout out to Pedro Pascal as the Fox. Yep. I also did not notice that was him. But yeah, no, this is,
and then
you know what? I'm changing it. I gave this a 3.5. I'm giving it a 4. What am I talking about? I already gave it a 4.
And then we had,
so 4 out of 4 for me.
And then we had from Heartstopper, we had Kit Connor as Bright Bill.
That's who it was. Okay, I didn't know he was from Heartstopper, but yeah, like,
and then
everyone was good. There was so many, like, it was a stacked cast. I recognized everybody in the credits. I just wrote down the leads essentially, but geez, what a great movie.
And then we had, you can't have a great voice acting movie without having Mark Hamill. We had Mark Hamill there, I think, as the bear.
Yup,
I think he was the bear. Yeah,
he was the bear. I remember.
Okay, so you changed yours.
So you,
I hadn't given mine yet.
I changed it to 4 out of 4 because I don't know what I'm talking about. I already like it better than Inside Out 2. Like, I feel like Inside Out 2 is going to win the Oscar, but this is my favorite animated film of the year. It's so good. I loved this movie so much.
And so, yeah, I'm giving this one a 4 out of 4 pitchers of sweet tea.
Woo!
It was so good. I sobbed in the theater uncontrollably a lot. And it's like, I want to watch it again, but I'm like, I'm going to cry so hard. Oh my god, there's one scene in particular. Oh my god. Where, okay, I can't even talk about it because it would spoil something in the movie.
We can't. No spoilers.
Oh my god.
No spoilers.
I started crying, then it didn't stop. Anyway, your turn.
Okay, so if you... if you kept your word,
I think I know.
This next one should be your last ball.
It's not.
It's Long Legs.
Okay, yeah, I didn't get to see it.
You didn't get to see it?
No, I ran out of time.
You said you were going to see it like a week ago. How have you not had...
I was, but then, I saw a bug outside and the day just got away from me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not saying like it's a bad thing. Something happened and I got distracted. But no, this is...
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I created the penalty shot for T not watching 20 movies, because we've got, 4 or 5 Christmas movies out of your 20?
Hey, that's not my fault that they dropped
That's your New Year's resolution, T. You got to get on that earlier this year. I texted T back in August. I was like, okay, I'm almost at like 20 movies. Or not even August. It was like earlier than that because I hit mine at like July. I asked T, like, oh, how many movies have you gotten? And it was halfway through the year. It was probably June. He said 5. He had seen 5 new movies by June of last year.
To be fair, this was a very busy year for me. To be perfectly fair. This one time.
Okay.
I did have a lot going on.
Okay. True. Although this is a repeat from the year before as well.
Okay.
It has become...
It's become a pattern.
It's become a pattern.
Oh my
All
god.
right, so Long Legs. So
Osgood Perkins, the director, right?
Yes, Oz Perkins is the director. This is not his first rodeo. He's been doing some horror movies, and frankly, I've already seen a trailer for his next project when I saw Nosferatu.
I did
and
too.
And it looks funny. He's doing a horror comedy. It looks great. I'm very excited for the monkey. It looks really funny.
I thought
long legs.
I thought it looked bad, but that's just me. Go on.
Well, like, it's a horror comedy. I don't know. I like that it's not being serious. And we'll see. Who knows? Maybe it'll suck when it comes out. So, Long Legs. We had a whole segment on the marketing for this movie.
It was incredible.
It was, it's crazy. So...
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. Did you ever call the phone number?
I didn't.
Okay, so sit down.
But I can't elaborate on...
Sit down.
You didn't even see the movie.
I at least called the phone number.
So anyway, this movie is super atmospheric. Yeah. It kind of was polarizing to a lot of people because a lot of people were drawn in from the advertising and hated it. And this is kind of like the same thing with people hating on Nosferatu. Like, this is an art house movie. It's not trying to appeal to the wider movie-going audience. This is like a movie for movie people. And I know I sound really snobby saying that.
But
it's totally fair.
It's just a fact of life.
It's totally fair that if you don't find it scary, horror is subjective in the same way someone might not find a joke funny. Totally fair. This movie is beautiful. The cinematography is great. I personally thought the performance from Nick Cage is really good. I thought it was very nice to see... oh my god, don't tell me I forgot her name. Oh my god.
The Clarice of the movie?
Anyway, right? The Clarice in the movie. Well, that's the thing. I'm kind of disappointed you didn't get to see it because I'm curious to see what your opinion on certain aspects of it are, because there's some things that are very, very reminiscent of Silence of the Lambs.
Okay,
and
actually...
It takes a very, very different turn by the end. And that's the other thing that I think threw off a lot of people. That being said, this movie kind of, and again, this is all subjective. Someone will probably go, oh, this scared you. I was really on edge for this movie. There were a number of times when I almost left the theater because I felt like I was going to have a heart attack.
Oh, okay.
Like, I was just on edge.
And this is from the seasoned horror expert. And he's like, how did you not see this? He wanted me to die. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, that's the thing, T. You might not have felt the same way. You might have been like, that scared you? You might have been one of the people who sees this and thinks like, oh, that was nothing.
Maybe I'll be like the Zodiac and I'll be like, oh my god, Long Legs was the best satirical comedy I've ever seen.
So it's very, very good, in my opinion. I have tempered my opinion. Coming out of the theater, I was like contemplating making it my film of the year. I was contemplating giving it 4 out of 4. Partly listening to the backlash after I got out, and also just kind of thinking about it and stuff. This is not a movie for everybody, and I don't think that everybody is going to gel with it so much. And I do think that should go into whether a film is... ranked a certain way. Like I was talking about Dune. Dune is one of my 4 out of 4s for this year. And I think it's really amazing how, as weird as that movie is, it still brings in a big crowd of people. Thankfully, Long Legs cost nothing to make. Okay. So just within its first weekend, it made plenty of money. It's doing fine. Oz Perkins already has his next movie coming out.
Fabulous.
But I really enjoyed this.
For those of you who don't know, Oz Perkins is the son of Anthony Perkins from Psycho, right?
From Psycho.
Yeah, from Psycho.
No, and he was also, he had his role in Legally Blonde.
I know. I love that I got to scoop you with that. Hey, you know who this is? The director of Long Legs.
You did. No, he's had a bit of an acting career. But yeah, so for me, I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of aesthetic stuff, I thought. Also, Nick Cage gave just stellar performance. The makeup was really good. And just other things, like the whole... I like the attention to detail. It's really stupid, and this isn't going to spoil anything, but we have Long Legs, who is a Satanist. There's a lot of satanic imagery and stuff. It's so stupid, but I love the attention to detail that the credits scroll downward instead of upward.
Oh,
because you're going to hell. I don't know. It's things like that really.
Well, there's
get me.
that,
but
and there's also like the inverted crucifix is usually associated with Satanism too.
Oh, for sure. But so for me, I'm giving it a 3.5, and that's mainly based on my personal opinion. But I would encourage you to check it out. I think also the marketing is a double-edged sword, right? Because if you hype a movie up so much, like, everyone's going to have super high expectations, and even if it is really good, you get kind of that Paris syndrome, where it's like it's not as good as you were expecting it to be.
Yeah.
Paris syndrome, for those who don't know, is a lot of people who go to Paris feel an overwhelming disappointment when they actually get there because it's hyped up as like the city of love and blah, blah, blah. But when you go there, it's just a normal city.
Yeah.
So that's what Paris syndrome means. Like, when you have such high expectations for something that when you get there, like, even if it's really good, like, you just are going to be disappointed. And I think that was kind of the thing with Longlegs. I think a lot of its marketing got butts in seats. I think it helped with it having such a great box office,
right.
But I also think that a lot of people just had higher than high hopes for how it was going to be. And that led to them being disappointed or not thinking it's scary and yada yada. But just as an artfully crafted film, it's really good. I'm happy Oz Perkins is seeing enough success that he's, going off to do other things. And that's what I gave it. So what's your final movie, team?
Well, first off, because I think I figured out what my final movie is by looking at my list, which you're gonna be super disappointed by. But I do want to make a promise, because I do really want to see Longlegs, and the fact that you said I wanted to discuss it with you because of its similar Silence of the Lambs. So February is usually my month for oh my god.
Lonely Hearts Club.
Thank you. Whiskey and Sweet Tea's Lonely Hearts Club. So sorry. That's my month too. Whiskey is having some issues here. So one of our mini topics for one of the episodes will be us discussing me watching Longlegs, because I don't want to rob you of that experience, and that's really on me for missing out on it. So that'll be my promise.
That's all good.
That we'll do that. So because I have a few on here. There's a few on my list I want to see.
Well, plus that way we could spoil the hell out of it, because I'm actually very, honestly, that's kind of great. We'll do it for my episode so that, that actually makes sense too. Because anyway, no, that's a great plan. So for one of the 2 episodes, we'll be reviewing Longlegs as usual, so we will be spoiling it. But yeah,
it will be shorter than a full episode because it'll be our mini topics. We'll still have our normal movie to talk about, but we will discuss it. Just so Whiskey doesn't murder me in my sleep. Okay, so there's 2 left in here. One of these will be Inside Out 2, unless that's the one I forgot to write down. Yep, Inside Out 2. Okay, so let's get the last one. Oh my god, y'all, what could this possibly be? And I'm actually kind of disappointed in myself that this is the last one too. I wish this one had come out sooner. Yeah, Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Oh my god, you saw that?
It was awful. I don't even want to talk about it.
What did you pay money to see it, or was it like streaming somewhere?
It was streaming, but I still feel like I'm owed money for compensation. Did you know
Zachary Levi or Levi or however you pronounce his last name?
Yeah, Zachary Levi. I did know he was going to be in it. To be fair, when I first found out about this, he was going to be in it. I think it was before I really knew what was going on with him, and I was just more attracted to the nostalgia of the books from a kid, and I was so disappointed.
They pissed on your face as far as nostalgia. I don't think that was probably faithful to the books at all.
No, but I was I didn't know what the story was going to be. Going into it, it could be super. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't disappointed. That he was. I
saw the trailer for that. It might have been Inside Out 2. It might have been I was seeing some kids movie. It was probably one of those animated films, and the trailer for that played before, and I wanted to dry heave. I was like, "What is this? This feels like child abuse if you show this to your kid."
Oh god, it was so bad. So. I'm really just going to give that a 1 out of 4 pitches of sweet tea. I'm not even going to talk about it. It's not worth the time. And frankly, we're running out of time anyway. So.
No, and I will be fast. I've got quite a few movies left, but I will be quick.
Okay.
And you know what's hilarious is that next on my list is the movie that was my 20th movie back in July 27th when, I reached the limit before you. So that's kind of almost poetic. So, next film is The Young Woman and the Sea on Disney+.
I have not heard of
So
that.
I already talked... Oh, so it's about the woman who swam the English Channel.
Oh, okay.
And was the first person... that everyone talks about that. She was the first person to do it, not even being a woman. No one had successfully swum the English Channel, and she was the first person to do it. So this is another thing that I'm sure... Honestly, I didn't hear anybody squawking about how woke it is, but it is kind of in the same reign of Damsel, in that this is Daisy Ridley after Star Wars.
Okay.
And I know she's been doing some other movies. We were making fun of an indie film that was caught being... Do you remember that at the beginning of the year? There was that Rotten Tomatoes racket where they were, giving positive reviews to indie movies for money.
Yes, I remember us talking about that.
So that was a Daisy Ridley thing. So Daisy Ridley plays the woman who swam the English Channel, therefore being the first person to do it. It's a Disney Plus movie. And it is fine. I was more interested because it's one of those historical things you learn as a kid, and then it's okay, moving on. So it's interesting to know that woman had a medical illness when she was a baby that almost killed her. So swimming was also part of her physical therapy. It's one of those things where the story was more interesting than the movie, and I think that's kind of a hindrance. Again, I was kind of mean to Millie Bobby Brown. I have to be a little mean to Daisy Ridley.
Okay.
I don't think she was particularly good in this. I don't think that she was particularly bad either, but
she was kind of just there.
She was there. Honestly, and that's kind of this movie. It's there. I don't think it was bad. I thought it was very interesting. And it's definitely doing its whole girl power thing. You're learning about how people were trying to cheat her, how many times she failed doing it, and all of these other things. But that's the history. That has nothing to do with the filmmaking, you know?
Right.
It's...
That's just, it actually
So
happened.
It's fine. Yeah, right? It's more inspiring to know that it just happened, you know what I mean? So, as a film, it's fine. If you have Disney Plus, check it out if it sounds like something you want to watch during International Women's Month or something, but it's fine. 2 out of 4. Nothing too crazy. All right. Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes.
Holy shit. Awesome. This was the first Deadpool. Frankly, just in general, Disney's been hitting it out of the park. I've got a couple other Disney Fox produced things that are just great. This is the most filthy, gory, depraved, what else? It's the most Deadpool of the Deadpool movies, and it's extra funny that Disney produced it. And it's extra funny that it's currently streaming on Disney Plus. This is another movie I got a chance to rewatch with my dad a month ago or something. It's really funny. And also it's just taking the piss out of Disney. It's kind of a love letter to the Fox Marvel movies. So you get X-Men, you get the Fantastic Four, it's got all these references. There's jokes about productions that never happened. You get to kind of see Gambit at one point. And I'm kind of no more spoilers. It's really good. I have a feeling most of you listening have probably already seen it. And if you haven't seen it and you like this stuff, it's a no-brainer. It's easily the best superhero movie of the year. But what's crazy is this is the only Marvel movie of the whole year.
Oh, wow.
DC, I don't think put anything out that I can think of. So it's the only superhero movie of the year, unless I'm forgetting something. But it's also just the best Marvel movie in a long time. And part of it is because it's making fun of Marvel. So 3.5 out of 4, really good.
I will say I was disappointed that, because I thought there was so much queer baiting with the marketing. I really wish they at least had like the make out or something in the movie, like for some reason. Because
there's definitely there's check it out if you have you because you haven't seen it, right?
I've seen Once Upon a Deadpool.
Check it out. There's I wouldn't call it exactly queer baiting. There's like, I don't know. It's hard to explain unless you see it. Like there's jokes, but also like it wouldn't be past Deadpool to like go there. You know what I mean? Check it out. If you're, you know, obviously if you watched Once Upon a Deadpool, I guess you were nervous about the more violent or offensive aspects of the movie, but I think you'd be able to handle it. So up next, speaking of Disney produced Fox stuff, we got Alien Romulus.
Oh yeah,
holy
my dad saw that.
God, this was awesome. This was, you know, nothing special. A lot of detractors were talking about how it's just aping off of other Alien movies. What are you going to, like, this is what, the 12th Alien movie?
Oh my God.
Like, I like that there is some new life cycle stuff going on. They brought back practical effects. There is an actual person in an alien suit, which we have not seen since, like, the 90s. Like, it's great. I saw this with my sister, and we both were like, this is a theme park ride. It is also the most successful horror movie in IMAX as of late. Really good time. Fede Alvarez, by the way, the director. This is the guy who did the Resident Evil, or not, the Evil Dead remake in 2013. And so he's doing really good. Hilariously, I mean, I don't know, Gladiator 2 did really well. It's funny that this is the most successful Alien movie in a long time, and Ridley Scott did not direct it. He produced it, but I don't know, that must hurt a little bit. So I give it a 3 out of 4. Really good time, but, you know, nothing necessarily pushing the envelope, just a fun time. And yay, I get to be mean again.
Yay!
It's Megalopolis.
Oh yes, thank God.
It's Megaflopolis, everybody. This movie sucked. This is probably the worst movie of the year. I was really mean to Zack Snyder, but Zack Snyder is Zack Snyder, and it's like making fun of the kid in special ed.
Oh my God.
You know, it's low-hanging fruit. We have got Francis Ford Coppola directing what, in my opinion, is the worst movie of the year, and a joke to call it a sci-fi film. This is the most half-baked, stupid, meaningless piece of crap that has come out. Visually, it's amazing. You know, like, technically, everyone who worked on this, good job. Especially anyone who had to put up with his sexual harassment on set.
Yeah.
But what an embarrassing way to go out. This isn't even, like, another... Like, he's been making some bad movies, like, you know, art house crap, you know, just in his free time. This is embarrassing. Someone else should have helped write this. It's honestly kind of baffling what he's even going for. Speaking of horny movies, this is also one of the most horny movies of the year, but not in a good way. The nicest thing I could say is, like, this is a funny watch, or if you're just, like, wanting to have your mind boggled. He doesn't even really go into detail about things like what Megalon is, you know, the fictional substance that they're building Megalopolis on. Not a single word on what the hell that stuff is. Just a bunch of pithy, you know, philosophical jargon about what it is to be like a utopia. Bullshit. He should be embarrassed. This is officially the worst movie he's ever directed, and now people will look back on Godfather 3 as at least it wasn't Megalopolis. This is another 1 out of 4. Don't say I wasn't mean to any movies this year. Oh, cool, we got another piece of crap.
Oh, yay!
So Joker Folia do, maybe Folia poo. No, so something I thought was kind of funny about this movie is a bunch of famous directors have been kind of defending it. What I will say is that I like that this movie makes incels angry. I like that the most insufferable fans of the first movie hate this movie with a burning passion, and it's really funny to watch. You think back to 2019's Joker, and you think of that embarrassing neckbeard who went on a rant about how it should have won Best Picture over Parasite.
Oh, yeah.
What an embarrassment. These are the people that hate this movie, and you should laugh at them for it. It is a mess, but there is a little bit of humor, in my opinion, that the director is intentionally trying to make these kinds of people angry. Thankfully, Lady Gaga saves all of the musical numbers she's involved with. Joaquin Phoenix can't sing to save his life.
That being said, after other stuff Joaquin Phoenix pulled this year, Joaquin Phoenix can die in an alley. Maybe I'll...
The whiskey is taking effect, everybody. But yeah, I didn't hate this movie. I thought it was boring. I think that's the worst thing you could say about it. But like I said, there's something about the fact that it is just making the worst people possible angry at it that I kind of like it in a weird way. So I can't fully crap on it. It is a 2 out of 4 in my opinion. And frankly, we never reviewed the original Joker, but if we did, I would also give it a 2 out of 4. They're both fine. They're both kind of mediocre. And they're both not as smart as they think they are.
Got it.
Sorry, not sorry. All right, and closing out with Gladiator 2. I cannot in good conscience say this is a bad movie, but I also cannot in good conscience compare it to the instant and automatic classic that is the original Godfather. I was talking to T a little while ago about how about a year ago I rewatched the original on Netflix because I hadn't seen it since I was like a teenager.
Right.
When I was a teenager, obviously, like I knew... it's one of the best movies ever made, like it won Best Picture, yada yada, but it was very kind of derivative of other similar sort of movies that I didn't really appreciate it as much. Rewatching it like a decade later, it hits different, and I even recommended, because T's never seen the original Gladiator, it's great. It's one of those movies, in my opinion, that like, if you ask someone, what is the best film of all time, and someone says Gladiator, that is a good answer. There is no right answer necessarily, but there's just good answers.
Yeah.
T would say Gone with the Wind. That is another good answer.
Yeah.
Someone might say, E.T. That's another good answer. Like there's classic films. It's just like, if you want to say it's the greatest film of all time, I'm not going to argue with you.
Oh, what about when people say? What about when people say Inception?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's my favorite Nolan film.
Okay.
But yeah, so like this film coming out over 2 decades later, it better be bringing the heat. It wasn't. It's like a neat idea. Just like another film I talked about. Like I like that it didn't ape off of nostalgia from the first one or just try and recycle the plot. There we go. So just like Beetlejuice, it doesn't do that. I like that the Gladiator has a different backstory. I like that the villains are different. Denzel Washington is a standout in the film. His performance is great. I could see him potentially getting an Oscar nomination. It sounds like he got some Golden Globe nominations. So it's like a fine movie. I think that it is too little too late, and I think that there's just some things that feel cheap. A friend of mine who actually Gladiator is her favorite film of all time, she hated this, and I kind of, the comparison I made was, it's sort of like when the Hobbit movies came out.
Yeah.
And everyone can agree. Like, there was something you just couldn't put your finger on, but, like, they felt cheaper and worse than the Lord of the Rings movies, especially that first one where it wasn't so obviously worse. That's what this is. Like, it's not a bad movie, but it's just, like, it's off. Something about it is wrong. And I think there's, like, little things, too. Like, the fact that Hans Zimmer did not do the score like he did in the original, probably because he was busy working on Dune Part 2.
Probably, yeah.
And other things too. A lot more CGI in this one. Pretty much any animal you see in the movie is CGI, so there's that going for it. But there's like things I liked. Personally, I thought that the twin emperors were kind of funny. that's just me. Not as good as Joaquin Phoenix as in the first one as the psycho villain.
Yeah,
Caesar. But so it's not bad. It obviously made a buttload of money, so it's doing just fine. I think it's going to get nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards and win nothing. But I give it a 2 out of 4. It's okay. I didn't hate it. Awesome. We made it out.
Yay!
And I think T is a little bit more drunk than me, but that's what he gets for doing straight whiskey. So I will allow T to go to bed. But thank you guys again. It's great seeing that we're kind of growing on our platforms and that you guys like listening to us. I think this is the funnest episode we do every year, and it's the only time we really get to talk about new movies. So just hope you guys still enjoy this, and let us know down in the comments if you're listening to this on YouTube Music what you thought. What should we review? What did you think of what we did review in this episode? If you're listening to this on any platform at all, check out our backlog. We've reviewed a lot of movies. We even alluded to them. But we got a whole new year coming up. We've already got plans for some different things. But until next time, I am Whiskey.
I'm Sweet Tea.
Keeping it Kino.
And suck it, Scorsese.
See you in 2025, y'all.
Bye, everyone.
Reels on the Rocks is a production of La Prince Laboratories. It is edited and produced by Alejandro Castillo and features original artwork by Asa Esparza and original music by Pat Mars. Follow us on Twitter at Reels on the Rocks and tweet at us with any movies or topics you'd like us to discuss in the future.